Welcome back to the tavern, my friends. It's so very good to see you all. Grab your seats and pull on up. It's almost time for stories. I don't know why this isn't working. Hang on. Oh, that's why it's not working. Alright. There we go. That should be turned down. Rain, hello. Good to see you. Welcome in. Matty, Milu, Georgia, hello, welcome in. Zagnius, hello, welcome. Gunnar, Valkyrie. Mr. Jaeger, hello, welcome in. Teresa, hello, Milu, hello. And Nicholas Infante, hello. Good to see you, Bear, welcome. Lucy, good to see you. Real quick, we need to give Matty his toot on the raid horn. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. And that'll do for now. Molly, hello. What is Matty giving spoilers on again? What is Matty spoiling this time? How dare he? You weren't early, Lucy. You were in early. That is true. But hello, my friends. It's good to see you all. Everyone, grab your seats and settle in. I'm gonna give everybody a few more minutes to trickle in, and then we'll get directly into story time. We won't. His book again, more Matty. Nobody's gonna buy your book if you spoil it for them. You gotta play the line. He was going to be earlier, but he stayed later because my streak didn't update fast enough. Well, that's alright. Hello. I'm just leaving the shop. I'll be listening while I head home. Alright, Tyson, drive safe, brother. I also will say I hate my back locking up for 12 hours straight. Well, Matty, you do spend a lot of time sitting. When you do this job, when you make things at a computer, you have to make sure you're getting plenty of exercise. You're making sure that you are getting out and stretching. Those things are all very, very important. Kathy McGowan, welcome in from Buffalo, New York. Buffalo is very beautiful. I haven't been there in probably nearly 20 years, but when I went, it was pretty. Good evening, Amber. Welcome in. It's good to see you. Hashin, hello. Welcome in. Everybody, come on in and grab your seats. We are tonight reading from Raymond E. Feist's A Darkness at Sethanon. We're almost done. We were in the midst of a dreadful battle in the last episode. And they blew up the city. Spoiler alert for anybody who... well, I probably should put the spoiler beforehand. Yes, so A Darkness at Sethanon is a part... Ashley Cornish, hello, love, good to see you. Darkness at Sethanon is the 4th book in the Rift War saga. And we just finished Silverthorn, I think in November of last year. And Darkness at Sethanon comes after that. This is a more balanced... So, Magician and Apprentice, which is the first book in the series, it's a really slow burn to get to the story. Like, you have to read... It's a big book. It's a lot... Hang on, let me go grab it. I'll go grab it. Give me just a sec. Okay. Magician is the first book in the series. Now, this is technically split into 2 books. The gladiators known as the Bruins are on TV, coffee brew in my tankard, and I'm ready for a tale, Well, welcome in, Vinny. It's good to see you. Petra, hello. You and the lady are doing well, and everything's going well in the tavern, as well as could be expected. If you stated that it is so, Matty. So I take this from a man who, Matty, from a man who has a dreadfully damaged body. Your sleep is when your body heals, though, Matty. So I have gone through a massive amount of trauma. The only time that I am not in extreme trauma, I don't like that word. I've been hit by cars, I've fallen off of buildings, had years in martial arts, I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've dislocated joints, I've had a lot of physical trauma to my body. The only time that my joints and things don't hurt is when I am regularly exercising and stretching and being active. Especially since I spend a lot of time here, sitting in the tavern with all of you. So it's important to make sure you get out and you are stretching and getting exercise, because your body will only be as strong as it is. Simply said. So, back to this. Magician is a massive book. This is the first book of the series. It's technically 2 books, but they combine it into one. So it's Magician Master and Magician Apprentice. Apprentice is the first book, Master is the second. And it's huge. And it doesn't really get going until about there. It doesn't really pick up till about there. What am I doing? Oh, yeah, there we go. In the book. And it's well worth the read. It is a wonderful book, but it is a slow burn, to be sure. Now, Silverthorn, which is the 3rd book in the series, is completely different. This one is a runaway train from page 1. This one goes and goes and goes and goes, slows down a little bit, then goes and goes and goes all the way up to the end. There is no slowing this one down. Feist was on something when he wrote this, and it is a massive, massive train ride with no brakes. A Darkness at Sethanon is a much better, not much better, but it's a much more well-balanced book. You have it's a little bit slow in the beginning, you have a nice ramp up, and then you've got ebbs and flows to it. I started rereading the next one. Is there another direct book in the Rift War saga, Bear? Is there another one that comes like right after A Darkness at Sethanon? Beauty and Blasphemy, hello, it's good to see you, welcome in. Okay, I'll make sure to do that, sorry, just a lot going on and my stress is a slow burn right now. No, and that's alright, buddy. The best thing that you can do for your brain and your body, even if you're in a lot of pain, even if you're sick, the best thing you can do for your brain and body is to be as active as you can be. Because it's really, really easy to just lay stagnant when you're hurting, but your body's not designed to do that. Your body has natural mechanisms to deal with pain and to deal with like hurt things, but you have to have blood flowing, you have to have nutrition, you have to have you have to have the things that are necessary to rebuild those parts of your body. The greatest line, Jimmy the Hand, almost as good as he thinks he is. Yeah, and Jimmy is such a great character. Stagnation over on TikTok says, greatest line, Jimmy the Hand, almost as good as he thinks he is. Jimmy is a great character. He's a spectacular and complex character. I love him. He's absolutely wonderful. Also, no, there isn't a direct book after that. It leads towards 2 lines. One is the Jimmy the Hand series, and okay, so thank you, Stagnation. Appreciate that. The second is The King's Buccaneer. Oh, Bear says Prince of the Blood. Shadow says I don't. Hey, Shadow, good to see you, brother. Welcome in. So where does Prince of the Blood fall in the timeline? It's about 16 years later. Movement, exactly, Milo, exactly. Good timing, off of work, helped a friend, and now Storytime. Have you up on YouTube, I'll chat from here. Spectacular, Bobby. We're going to start here in a minute. I'm going to run ads on Twitch in about 2 minutes, so you guys don't have to worry about any ads while we're reading, and then we'll go on from there. Even when I can't really move, I put on music and dance around in a weird way. I honestly believe a lot of the reason my body has done as well through so much toxic treatment is dancing. But it is incredible how much even just a little bit of movement will do for your body. Like, as soon as you stop moving, you stop doing things. Human beings are 100% purpose-driven creatures. If you have no desire to do anything, like if you're not looking forward to anything, you have no obligations, and you're not moving around, your body will slowly decay. It's why, like most men, like you'll have men. Many people see this in their fathers and grandfathers. You'll have men who their whole lives they go, they go, they go, they go, and then as soon as they retire, they start to look old. They start to get old, and it's because they didn't plan for a purpose after the purpose that they'd had for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And you see it a lot with mothers as well. When you have mothers who love being mothers and they have, 2, 3, 4 children, as soon as all their children are out of the house and they don't have anything to do, they start to be anxious and old, and it's because when we don't give ourselves purpose, when we don't make sure that we are active, our bodies slowly start to abandon us. It's just what happens. Erin, hello, good to see you. What Bear said, but also the game is set in the world for... But also, the games are set in the world for the turned into books that are Jimmy the Hand based. I see. Even if it's a sitting wiggle dance curled up in a blanket because it's all I can handle, it helps. Yeah, absolutely. Move it or lose it, it's a real thing, not just a... Yeah, 100%. Boo, I no longer have a subscription. Yeah, unfortunately, they make us do that every month. I just don't get how it happened right as all I had a nightmare. Okay, so your body does a ridiculous amount of activity in the night. Amber, you said, my deepest apologies, unfortunately I cannot stay for the story. My daughter just called and got hurt at her job. I need to go and take her to the hospital. Amber, that is an incredibly important thing. You do not need to apologize for that. Go take care of your family. Go make sure that your daughter is all right, and get on in there. The tavern will always be here. The stories are up for a long time, and we do this multiple times a week, as you know. So you can come back. Just go take care of your daughter. No sorries needed. All right. We hope she's all right. If you can drop back in later, let us know how she's doing. Have you read Shadow of a Dark Queen? Freaking amazing work by Feist. I had never read Feist until Magician was voted on by the Tavern Stagnation. We had 2 patrons. One of them is Herring over on the Twitch portal, and another one was named Spearsy, and they both really advocated for this, and then Bear chimed in too, saying that he wanted to get this done, and they persuaded people, and that's why we ended up reading it. I never would have read this on my own because the opening is so slow. It's not bad, it's not poorly written, but it is a very slow burn, and that's not the sorts of novels I usually read. I usually give a book about 50 to 100 pages, and if there's nothing that's really intriguing that happens, then I assume it's just another drama, If this had not been done for Storytime, I probably would not have read it, and I'm glad that it was, because I love it. It is spectacular, but I haven't read anything else of Feist's work. I have been picking up more of his work since we've learned about him, but... Gonna hit the hay, just wanted to pop in and say hi. Kathy, I'm glad that you did drop in. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your evening. We're gonna get to story time here in a minute, so if you want to leave up for the background so you can have some reading to help you pass off to sleep, you can do that, but if you are truly and completely out, have yourself a wonderful evening, rest well, and may your dreams be sweet and your waking be glorious. Top 3 favorite epic fantasy authors. I've read a lot of books, published a couple too. That's spectacular. We love us readers and writers here in the tavern, my friend. But by the way, for all of the new folks who are dropping in, I am Castle. This is my tavern. Here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. And every now and again, I read you all a story. You have come through a portal into a tavern at the end of the world, where all stories eventually come to rest. And you found your way here because you sought a story. Hello, I just found this tavern. I love the stories. It's also a perfect time, for I am at home sick. That's the perfect time to hear a story. Settle in, fill your glass, grab a drink, grab a seat. Stories will begin here presently. Now, for anyone who is new, we don't strictly just do stories during these story times. People will tend to ask me questions, and then I will tend to waffle quite a bit. Waffling meaning chatting and going back and forth with you all. It's a very slow burn. Isn't there a made-for-TV movie on the? I have no idea, Cherry. You would know better than I. I got a promotion today, and I've been celebrating with people. Well, very good. Congratulations, Erin. I finished Sage Knight's book yesterday. How was it, man? What's your objective opinion? Yeah, boo for Twitch for stopping my subscription. Oh, I forgot that you did the 6 months ages ago, Erin. We love waffles too. We're big fans of waffles. Nothing of Feist has been made into a film, says Stagnation. Rain says, I've always loved reading. I could read at 2 years old. Reading, I don't think I could. Reading at 2 years old is wild. Like that is very, very advanced. Yeah, I gotta wait till I get paid. Absolutely, no worries here. That's why I've stopped reading when the ads have to run on Twitch, so nobody who doesn't have a subscription doesn't have to miss anything. I hate that Twitch makes us do that, but I have no control over it. All I can do is make sure that the gaps in between the ads are as big as possible. I've also talked with the publisher and my editors and more spicy first person, so I have double the workload. Double the workload, but that's also double the book sales. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Wonderful. I still need to pick it up. I haven't had a chance to do so yet, but I definitely plan to. I can drag out that's fair. We is more accurate, Bobby. We can drag them out for just about forever. We usually have, Sundays we just do waffles. I'll be in and out for a bit while I work on schoolwork, but lurking. That's all right, Valkyrie. Do what you need to do, love. I appreciate you. Do you do children's stories too? So I don't know exactly what you mean, Hannah, but we read on Thursday. We do family-friendly stories. Right now, the family-friendly story that we're doing is Harry Potter. But Thursdays are family-friendly stories. Tuesdays are more adult stories. So obviously Feist is a more adult topic. But I always have one day that is safe for families and one day that is safe for the adults. I would read to the other kids in my kindergarten class. Legendary. Absolutely legendary. He froze for a second, recovered. But the lady and I also write books, and we are writing a children's series, so I don't know if that was what you were asking, but self-plug nevertheless. Anyone else excited to see the new season? I am absolutely ecstatic to see the new season of Free Run Quote. I wish you hadn't brought it up, because now I want to talk about it, but we need to read. So, Castle, couldn't help but notice that a few days after I followed you on Facebook, I got an invite to the patrons. An invite to the patrons? What is it? What do you mean, Calamitous? An invite to the patrons? Well, I don't send out invites to anything. So if you got an invite, it was automated. Or from somebody else. Just so you all know this, I don't send out message requests, I don't send out invites, the only thing that I send out that is subscribed to is if you're in a broadcast channel, I'll send messages talking about like what new things we have coming out. And if you are on the newsletter, we send out a newsletter once a month. I don't individually send out invitation, like Facebook is constantly asking me, hey, do you want to invite these people to like page? No, I don't do that. So if you got an invite to anything, I didn't send it, it was automated. That was in Magician, I'm not spoiling, I promise. Oh, what did you think about Pug's bout with the Great Ones in the arena? Absolutely spectacular, Stagnation. That was that scene was incredible. It was incredibly well written. It was perfectly dramatic. It was great. I loved it. No, and you're right. I don't particularly care about spoilers. If I see a spoiler in chat that I know other people care about, I don't read it out loud. I'll just read it to myself. What characters do you relate to most? Probably Colgan. Colgan is the character I would relate to the most. Or maybe Martin. Maybe Martin. Let's see. Lovely. No, you're all right, Court. I was just I was just messing with you. We should do a community watch of the whole first season before the next season comes out. The lady and I have it on DVD, so we can do a watch party over in the Also, thank you to you, Una. I hope she knows. If not, Aunt Riri. So do you mean to tell me you aren't actually an Irish prince and you won't be receiving millions of dollars for sending you a 20 Apple gift cards? No, that is, unfortunately, that message probably came to you from somewhere in the Middle East, Harry. So so Black Dragon Tavern Patrons, if you're on the Facebook portal, Black Dragon Tavern Patrons is what Facebook calls a broadcast channel, and it's basically a place where if you want to be sure you get notifications for something that I'm doing, you can join the broadcast channel, and then I'll post when new videos come out, when new story times come out, and any community announcements I put in there. It's basically like a big group chat for communities on Facebook. So it's like it's a big group chat, more or less. So in the broadcast channels for the tavern, I put out polls. Whenever a new story time comes out, I post it there. And then when oh, hang on, we're gonna get ads on Twitch here real quick. 3 minutes and then we'll be back. Dragon of the West, our Macedonian friend. Hello, hello, good to see you. Just got here, and what's the story theme this month? We are still in a Darkness at Sethanon, my friend. And we will be carrying on from Darkness at Sethanon. We're almost done. We've probably got less than, it's probably what, about a fourth of the book, maybe a quarter of the book left. For clarity, I asked if she'd be okay voicing Auntie Ridri if the voice actor I'm talking to right now can't. She said yes, and that's why. Oh, okay. I will let her know then. We saw Destiny on Sunday, and I've spoken to her. Her family is going through a bit of a deal right now, so I used my Twitch Prime sub. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate you. Enjoy your Wraith's Wisp meringues. That still tongue twist me after all that time. 13 months in a row. What a legend. Thank you kindly, love. I appreciate you. You know, tips to the tavern keeper are always appreciated. But yeah, Stagnation, I would say Colgan. Colgan is probably my most relatable character in the whole of the Magician series so far. 1 year, 2 months, 1 day, 21 hours. Yeah, Destiny's husband, Lucas, his grandfather passed away a couple days ago, and they've been dealing with family things on that. So, lies, Twitch, lies. 1 year, 17 days, 23 hours. Most relatable so far. That's true. So there's a small offshoot series not related to a Ruther's family called Talon of the Silverhawk. It is different, a little slow, heart-wrenching, and amazing. I don't mind heart-wrenching as long as the story... So here's my general rule. And this is something that I tell... Because when we do editing for writers, because the lady and I, we offer editing services, we offer audits, like we help writers learn how to be proper storytellers. I have a rule. A book can be good if it does one of the 3 pillars correctly. You either have to have good character writing, you either have to have good plot writing, or you have to have good world building. If you have any one of these 3, you can have a good book. If you have 2 of these 3, you can have a great book. And if you have 3 of these 3, you will have a spectacularly legendary book, especially if they're done exceptionally well. Oh, Kitty, I was going to message you today. Can you send me the notes from our meeting when we met in November, if you have them? My notebook that I used to take the notes from that meeting fell into water, and now I don't have those notes to get you the story that I offered you. So if you could send me any notes that you have through Discord, I would appreciate it. I was going to work on your project this week, and I don't have my notes, and I need them. So if you could send me the notes, if you have any, from that about what it is that needs to be done. I have a general memory of it, but not enough for me to feel comfortable going all the way through the project. It is different, and also, okay, it ties so well together. Then I would definitely be wanting and willing to give it a look. Barry, hello, welcome in over on the Facebook portal. My condolences and prayers to Destiny for her loss. I will make sure that they get passed along if she doesn't make it in here this evening. Lord of the Rings is a spectacular example of great character writing, great world building, and great plot. There are virtually no holes in the plot of Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, and there is an absolutely spectacular, there is not a world builder in the world that can compare to Tolkien's writing. And then the plot for Lord of the Rings is probably the weakest aspect of it, but it is still stronger than most modern novels. Water is evil, yes, I can get you what I have. Let me know if there's anything else you need. Of course, brother, good to see you. Yeah, so you told me my world building was too indulgent, if I remember. I don't remember exactly. I know if there's... No, what I said is that your world building was too handholdy. World building is not the same as explaining your world. In your early drafts, you were writing as though your reader was a toddler, and you needed to explain everything to them. Your world was fascinating. The way that you were doing the world building was sort of insulting the intelligence of the reader. That was the problem. Frost, hello, my friend. Good to see you. That's all right. We haven't started yet. We just finished ads over on Twitch, so we're just now getting started. Also, Castle, if you're going through my book again, just know I am actively editing. You and I need to have a call, because I'm so behind on all of my extracurricular work. I need to go over what still needs to be done with your stuff. I'm so behind. L. Ron Hubbard once said he only writes about people because that is the only reason people can connect to the world he builds. Everything else is window dressing. Well, and that's actually a good point, Calamitas, is that when you are doing character writing, plot, and world building, if they are not people-centric, if they are not based on people, no one's gonna care. No one is gonna give a damn about what you wrote, because people relate to people. People relate to people, and people relate to people who are like them. So if you are not writing a relatable world that is based around people, no one is going to care. No one is going to care. Hi, my friend. Thank you for the hospitality. Thank you for coming in. It's good to have you. We're gonna start here presently. I'm just gonna finish up a couple of these points, and then we're gonna carry on. We should read The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings soon. So once we finish, so we're 60% of the way through Deathly Hallows, and we are almost all the way through. We're 2/3 of the, or 3/4 of the way through this one. Once these two are done, we're going to do the readathon, and I almost guarantee you the readathon is going to end up being Tolkien again. We've done 2 readathons, both of them were Tolkien, so we're probably going to end up doing The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings for the readathon. I'm reading through Tolkien's books. I am now on the Children of Húrin. Oh, be still my beating heart. Oh, Children of Húrin is one of the most dreadfully sad stories and Tolkien wrote a lot of sad things in the Silmarillion, but Children of Húrin is such a sad book. I love it. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, Hannah, but Children of Húrin is so sad. It breaks my heart. I love Children of Húrin, but it is so sad. What about the Silmarils dragon? Readathon. Yeah, I'm excited for it too. Bram Stoker's Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula is another very good one. I know it's so good to cry with. It is so. Oh god, I love Children of Hurin. It is one of the great like backstory books to Lord of the Rings, but it is so sad. It is a constant tragedy. It's look. I don't like reading sad things. I don't like reading sad things, but I will read them if the story is good. Like, there's enough sad things that go on in life. I don't need the book to make me sad. I don't mind a little bit of tragedy. I don't mind a little bit of darkness, but I prefer to read hopeful books. That's just how it is. Children of Hurin is just one tragedy after another, and it is well written. It's well put together. The characters are likable. It is such a good book, but it is so sad, and the ending is it's just a twist as a knife in the heart. Oh god. Skipping that book, I'm not reading that thing. It is very sad. It is very sad. Yeah, Lord of the Rings. I can't wait for the readathon. I can't either. Fab Kitty, hello, good to see you. Welcome in. Castle, did you ever read Mission Earth Saga? I have not. Is that one of the ones that you've recommended to me, Calamitous? Yeah, almost literally, yeah. Newt, hello, welcome in. So very glad you could join us. All right, friends, I'm gonna get to reading. Fab Kitty, thank you for the heart me over on TikTok. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated, my friend. I'm so very glad that you could drop in. It's been a while since we've seen you. How have you been? It's a decology of 10 book. Wow, that's a lot. Include the missing chapter of Dracula if you read it. I'm not sure I know exactly what you're talking about, but because it's been years since I've read Bram Stoker's Dracula. I was in university, so it was at least 20 years ago. I was told that I have a heart of gold. You do, Bear, you do. Who are you? I don't know you. Well, I am Castle. This is my tavern. And here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a story tonight. We are reading A Darkness at Sethanon. But if you have found yourself here, it's because you sought a story. Or you had to use the bathroom. Either one of those things can happen. I don't think that's what people mean when they say Heart of Gold, Bear, but fair enough. How about you know, if one word is good, 15 is better? That's true. That's true. Send me a message on whatever you have me on, Columbus. I think you're still in the Discord. I don't know if you are, but I think you are. Send me a message with the name so that I can remember it. Hells, good to see you, my friend. Welcome in. The tavern is wonderful this evening. Absolutely bustling. That said, it was written as satire 40 years ago, but comparing it to today's world will raise the hair on the back of your neck. There's a lot of old fantasy and sci-fi that's that way. Calamitous is becoming increasingly more relevant and pertinent in modern day. Martin, my friend, it's good to see you. Hello. Troy, you said, just found your videos. Dig your style, my man. Troy, well, it's very good to have you. I'm glad that you were able to drop in. Grab a seat if you like. We are reading from Darkness at Sethanon this evening, and we'll be going for a bit. So, thank you kindly for the compliment. Welcome into the tavern. For any of you again who are new, who do not know me, I am Castle. This is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. And every now and again, I read you all a story. This is a tavern at the end of the world, and you've stumbled through this portal because you sought a story. So grab a seat, fill your glass. Let's get into it. I'm gonna start reading right now. Tripping into the tavern to use the facilities. Look, sometimes people have to use the bathroom. You know what else is MFing gold? That story about Oedipus meeting King Midas. I don't think I know what you're talking about, Helen. There is a chapter, the coach gets chased on Walpurgis Night by wolves to Castle Dracula like in the movie. Look it up. Interesting. I'm not sure that I knew that. There is a bear in. He's over on the Twitch portal, but I'm sure now that he's heard that you're over on the Facebook portal, he'll drop in to say hello, Martin. All right, my friends, let us begin. Allow that. The one-page document is fine, Kiri. And anything you remember from the conversation that you felt particularly pertinent, go ahead and send it to me. Would you like to be Calamitous? I'm not gonna force you, but if you would like to be, I can send you an invite. Hang on. I don't think I have any. Close that up. Bring this back up. I mean, that's all right. You've been around for a long time, Calamitous. I know your temperament by now. Thank you, Kiri. I appreciate you, my friend. Yeah, there's the link to the guild. If you'd like to join back up. I'll do that too then. There we go. DM said. All right. We haven't decided what we're singing yet today, Martin. So if you have a song recommendation, go ahead and drop it in, and we'll do some songs later on. The lovely lady of the tavern is holding up the bar over on TikTok. Hex, hello. I got lost you in the role there. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome in. Okay, so as a quick recap, when we last left off, Arutha, his distant uncle or cousin, Guy Dubastira, and a bunch of other folks from Amengard, which is the big fortress city that they were in, they essentially lost the battle to Myrmandamus, but destroyed the whole city. They blew it up. Blew it sky high. Well, then you'll get a my mother told me, my friend. Thank the chair. So let's go ahead and we will... So they blew up the city. Almost anyone who was in the city, all of the enemies who were in the city, burned to a crisp. And now they are fleeing the city. They found their way out through a back tunnel, and now they are on the run. But as they left, they found a couple of goblin spearmen, and they started following them. And that is where we are going to be picking up here at the end of the previous chapter. So we are in chapter 15 of A Darkness at Sethanon. And the chapter is called Light. Arutha motioned for a halt. Everyone, including the children, moved against the rocks, hiding from possible observation. The entire party crouched down in a gully, one they had been following for the night. Dawn was approaching, and after the fiery destruction of Armengar, the hills behind the city had become a no-man's land. The fall of the city had been a victory for Myrmandamus, but a vastly more costly one than he had expected. The hills behind Armengar had been thrown into chaos. Units already in place had been overrun by the rout army fleeing the city. The large number of goblins and trolls had quit the hills and fled back towards Mermandamus's camp. In the first few hours after the fall of the city, Arutha's party had seen few goblins or dark brothers, but it was obvious that Mermandamus had ordered a large number of the units back into the hills. At first, Mermandamus's forces had no clear advantage once in the rocks. There was no coordination among commanders, and not enough soldiers had come into the hills to put the fleeing Amangarians at a clear numerical disadvantage. Bands of goblins and Moradel ventured into the gullies and washes behind the city, and in the darkness, seeking to overtake the fugitives, but many never returned. Now the balance was shifting. Soon the area would be entirely in the enemy's control. Arutha glanced back over the huddling children. Several of the little ones were close to exhaustion from a sleepless night in constant terror. The problem of finding a safe passage south was confounded by the inability of the youngest children to move quickly, and at each turn they ran the chance of encountering the enemy. Twice they had blundered into elements from the city, and Guy had ordered them along on their own, refusing to let this group become larger. Twice more they had discovered corpses from both sides. The sound of boots grew louder, and from the number and lack of any attempt to hide their approach, Arutha judged that this was likely to be the enemy. He signaled, and everyone faded back along the gully until Arutha, Guy, Amos, Brianna, and Shiga crouched down in the shadows before the huddling children. Jimmy and Locklear stayed in the midst of the children, keeping them quiet. The patrol, led by a Moradel, consisted of trolls and goblins. The trolls were sniffing the air, but the heavy reek of smoke confounded their senses. They marched past the gully and down a larger defile. When they had moved past, Arutha motioned the company, and they moved cautiously forward, traveling toward the west, away from the patrol's line of march. Suddenly, a child yelled in fright, and Arutha and the others whirled around. Jimmy was leaping past the children, Locklear at his side, weapons drawn, as the trolls attacked. Whether they had discovered the fugitives or had simply decided to double back along the defile, Arutha did not know. But he knew that they must dispose of this patrol quickly or they would alert the others. Arutha lunged over Locklear's shoulder and killed a troll by forcing the boy back. Amos and Guy passed them. Soon the entire company was engaged. Shiga thrust with his spear, killing another troll, while the Moradel faced Guy. The dark elf recognized the protector of Armangard, for he shouted, "One Eye!" And he attacked with a savage fury, pushing Guy backwards, but Locklear duplicated Arutha's attack, striking past Guy and killing the Moradel. Abruptly, it was over. The 5 trolls, an equal number of goblins, and the Moradel dead. Arutha was breathing heavily when he said, It's a good thing that this is a narrow gully. If they'd gotten around us, we'd never have survived." Guy regarded the greying sky and said, "We have to find some place to hide. The children are ready to drop, and there's no place close where we can move over the mountains." Shiga said, "My crawl is not far. So I've travelled here, Protector. There's a trail a mile or more west, not often used. It leads to a shallow cave. Perhaps we can mask it. It's a difficult climb." "But we've got no choice," said Amos. Guy said, "Show us." Shiga set out at a trot, only slowing to glance around turns in the trail. When he had last climbed on the rocks next to the defile, they began lifting the children. The last child had been banded up and Brianna had climbed up after, when a shout came from the west. A half-dozen Armangarian soldiers were fighting a rearward action as a large number of goblins pursued them towards Arutha and his companions. Guy shouted to Brianna, "Get the children out of here!" Shiga crouched with his spear at the ready, while Brianna hurried the children along toward the cave. Arutha and the others joined with the Armangarians and blocked the defile. Refusing to yield to the goblins fought with a frantic quality, and suddenly Arutha shouted, "They are fleeing from someone behind them!" The pressure increased as the goblins began to leap at the Armangarians. Guy's order to slow withdrawal, and step by step they let the goblins push them back along the defile. Shiga crouched above the defile, guarding the slight trail to the cave from any goblin or troll who might attempt to climb towards the children, while Brianna continued to usher the children upward, but the goblins chose to ignore them, seeking frantically to get past Guy's detachment. When a shout from the other side said, beyond Arutha's vision, sounded, and several of the rearmost goblins began battling some other foe. The goblins ceased moving, and they were trapped between two groups of attackers. A yell from behind caused Arutha to spin about. Jimmy and Locklear had been watching the rear, and another company of goblins was appearing at the far end of the defile. Without hesitation, Arutha shouted, "Climb! Get out!" He and the boys leapt for the rocks, then stabbed downwards at goblins to allow Amos and Guy a chance to climb upward. Now Arutha could see what had caused the band of goblins to flee toward him. A company of dwarves were battling furiously against the goblins, and behind the dwarves 2 elves could be seen, who drew bows and fired over the heads of their shorter companions. Arutha recognized one of the elves and shouted, "Galain!" The elf looked up and waved. He shouldered his bow and leapt up onto the ridge, skirting the fighting in the gully below. With a long running leap, he cleared another wash and landed on the side of the defile where Arutha stood. "Martin has gone to Yabon! Are you all right?" Arutha nodded as he drew a deep breath. "Yes, but the city is gone." The elf nodded. "We know! Even miles away the explosion could be seen. We've been encountering refugees all night. Most of the dwarves are under Dogan and have formed a rough corridor along the high trail." He pointed back down the main trail they used in coming to Armangar. "Most of those fleeing will get through," Guy said. "There are children up in that cave there." He waved to where Shiga crouched on the other side of the defile. Ghislaine called out, "Arain! There are children up here!" He pointed toward the cave, and the second detachment of goblins joined the fray, and further conversation was halted. Several goblins attempted to climb up after those in the rocks, but Amos kicked one in the face and Jimmy ran the other through, and the others thought better of it. A momentary pause in the fight allowed Arain, the other elf, to yell, "Well, get them out!" The elf continued to shoot the goblins, while 2 dwarves scrambled up the small trail to aid Shiga, Brianna, and the 2 remaining Armangarian soldiers in getting the children safely down. Ghislaine said, "Cullen has sent a company of us to the Stone Mountains to honor Dogan's accepting the crown. When Martin arrived and told us of what was going on up here, Dogan set off at once. Erin and I decided to come along, while the rest of returned to Elvendar with word of Mermandamus's march. Cullen can't leave our forest unprotected with Tomas gone, but I suspect he'll send a company of archers to help the dwarves get survivors over the mountains. The dwarves' corridor is well held. From the Inclandale Gap to about the west mile of here, Dogan's warriors are all through the hills, so it'll be lively up here for a while." The dwarves fought a holding action from behind a shield wall while those above handed children down to the 2 dwarves at the rear, who quickly led them safely to safety. Jimmy tugged at Guy's sleeve and pointed to where the company of trolls was climbing up from below. Guy glanced about, seeing better than a dozen goblins still between himself and the dwarves, then pointed toward the east. He waved to Brianna and Shiga, indicating they should flee with the children. Quickly, Guy and the others scrambled behind the goblins and leapt down. They ran back to the last intersection they had used and moved down the shallow gully. Ducking into the same covering they had availed themselves of moments before, the guy said, "Those trolls coming up from below will make it impossible to reach the dwarves. Perhaps we can drop lower and move along until we've circled around them." Ghislaine said, "It's pretty chaotic up there. I was the most forward element of Dolgan's army, and they've come as far as they can. Now they'll begin to withdraw. If we don't overtake them quickly, we'll be left behind." Further conversation was interrupted by shouts above as more of Myrmindomus's forces ran along the ridges toward the invading dwarves. Guy signaled and they moved off at a crouch walk, deeper into the wash, heading down. After they'd gone a few hundred more yards, Guy said, "Where are we?" They exchanged looks and realized they'd taken a different way from the one that they had come. Now they were somewhere to the west of the caravan that had emptied out behind the city. Jimmy glanced up and began to rise, then ducked down again. He pointed. "There's a glow in the sky still, over there. So that must be where the city is." Guy swore softly. "We're not as far east as I thought. I don't know where the gully empties out." Arutha looked at the lightening sky. "We'd better keep moving." And they hurried off, not certain where they were heading, but knowing that to be caught would be to die. "Riders!" "Riders!" whispered Ghislaine, who had been scouting ahead. Arutha and Guy both pointed, and the elf said, "Renegades? Half-dozen. The louts are taking their ease about a campfire. You'd think it was a picnic." "Any sign of others?" asked Guy. "Nothing. I saw the movement farther to the west, but I think we've moved behind Myrmindomus's line. If these lazing by the fire are any indication, things are pretty calm hereabouts." Guy gestured with his thumb across his throat. Arutha nodded. Amos pulled a belt knife and motioned for the boys to circle the camp. In a crouch, they all moved along until Jimmy signaled, and he and Locklear climbed up the above trail. The two squires moved quickly and silently, while Arutha, Amos, Ghislaine, and Guy waited. They heard a startled shout and dashed forward. The two squires had jumped a guard at the far end of the small camp, and the 5 other men had their backs turned. 3 died without knowing someone was coming from behind, and the other 2 quickly followed. Guy glanced about. "Strip their cloaks. If we're questioned, we'll likely be found out, but if we keep to the ridges, perhaps their sentries will think we're another band out looking for stragglers." The boys put on cloaks over their Armangarian brown leather. Arutha kept his own cloak of blue, while Amos donned one of green. Guy retained his black one, and to a man the Armangarians wore brown, so the colours might disguise the fugitives for a while. Arutha tossed a grey cloak to Ghislaine and said, "Here, try to look like a dark brother." Dryly, the elf said, "Arutha, you do not know what a test of friendship that remark is. I must have Martin explain such things to you." Arutha said, "Gladly, but if it's back home over wine, and in the company of other families." The bodies were rolled down into the gully. Jimmy leapt atop the ridge above the camp and climbed up another ridge above that, standing so that he might get some sense of where they were. "Damn!" he swore as he jumped back down. Arutha said, "What?" "A patrol, about half a mile back along the trail. It's not in any hurry, but it's coming this way. 30 or more riders." Guy said, "We leave now," and they mounted the renegades' horses. As they moved out, Arutha said, "Ghislaine, I've not had a moment to ask of the others who travelled with Martin." "He left the question unasked," Ghislaine said. "Martin was the only one to reach the Stone Mountain," he shrugged. "We know Laurie's boyhood friend is dead. he said of Rold, not using the dead man's name in elven fashion. Of Lori and Baru, Serpent Slayer, we know nothing. Arutha could only nod. He felt regret at the death of Rold. The mercenary had proved a loyal companion, but he was more disturbed at Lori's unknown fate, and he thought of Carline. He hoped for her sake that Lori was well. He put aside that worry for more immediate concerns, and motioned for Ghislaine to lead the way. Mike, hello! Good to see you. Hello, my friend. I hope you're wonderful, Yule. It's nice to see you. You have a wonderful talent. I can read in my head, no problem, but aloud is special. I'm special needs. More I read that, the worse I sound, intending to be offensive, only meant to point out my... No, you're all right, Mike. No one here is so sensitive to take a passing joke as to be so offensive. But thank you for the heart, my friend. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. 4 days till Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Yeah, baby. What is Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Martin? Anyone else also excited for Drunk the Lunk? I don't know what it is. Yukino, hello! Learn siblings I don't have. I also learned siblings don't always have your best interest in heart. If you want things done, do it yourself. Sadly, that can be the case. Yay, dwarves, rock and stone. Yes, indeed, Martin. I would tell you the song I would like for you to sing, but I don't think you know it yet. I am working on it, indeed. Teresa. I have to get the littles to bed. I'd like to say I'll be back, but so single dad life can be unpredictable. We'll look forward to more of your content. Troy, you're always welcome here in the tavern, my friend, and I'm so glad that you could drop by. If you make it back in, we'll see you then, but if you don't, it was very, very good to have you in. Cassie, hello! I'm sorry I missed you dropping in, and my head was down. Sir Duncan the Tall and young Aegon Targaryen. Is there more Game of Thrones things happening? I stopped watching Game of Thrones in season 6, so I'm not up to snuff on it. I'm Canadian. People are sensitive lately. I won't speak for everybody in the tavern, but I certainly am not sensitive. I tend to believe that everything is a joke until it's not, right? Until I see somebody being malicious and actively trying to hurt people, then I'll say something. But it's very hard to offend me with a joke. I tend to believe that most things are a joke. And when we're talking online, I take very little that anyone says seriously. I have people who fight with me all the time on Threads and X, Twitter, because they don't understand that I'm being sarcastic, and admittedly, I do deadpan my sarcasm quite a bit, but I genuinely just try not to take anything on the internet too seriously until somebody makes it clear that they're trying to be offensive, they're trying to hurt people. Like, until somebody makes it clear that their intention is to be cruel, I don't take that to be what people mean. Jessica, hello, good to see you. I know well the stories of Hugin and Moonin, but do you know any stories of Gary and Freki? There are not many mainstream stories of Gary and Freki. I have family stories, because I grew up in local folklore, but I don't know, there are not many that are academically recognized as far as I know. It's fine, I was just getting things ready for work so I can sleep that much longer. That's very smart, plan ahead. I'm finally home. There was an accident on the exit I needed for my main way home. Ah, it's dreadful, Tyson. I hate when that happens. Really, they're still making Game of Thrones. Oh my god, I love that scene. I love one scene. Well, yeah, there's some stuff. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Game of Thrones. I like some of it, but there's other things I don't. It's funny you bring up Freya's cats, Martin. Because I have a video coming out soon on Freya's cats that I think no one is going to like. Hard to portray a tone in digital tech. It is. Which is why I try to assume that, like, even when people come in and say mean things to me, I try to assume that they're joking. But I will assume somebody's joking and then they'll, like, double down. They're like, no, I hate you, God, whatever. Esther, hello. See me, I do see you, Esther. I don't see anything above that message from you, but I do see. Oh, there it is. Good evening, Castle. I hope you're doing wonderful. Yeah, we just have so many people in tonight, it's hard for me to catch everyone. I, for one, would like to hear more of these stories about Odin's wolves. I have so many great stories about. Because, for those of you who don't know, my grandfather's family is a very old storytelling family from Ireland. They were amongst the Shonki and writers of the Bron Laws. Uh, but a lot of the folklore that I grew up with, a lot of the stories, like a lot of the stories that I grew up with were a lot more detailed. And according to my father, my grandfather and his family, the stories are old. And he has old texts and old books and old uh, depictions that were written down by priests and druids in our family. But they're not widely told. Some of them people have never heard before at all. Uh, and so when I tell them, people tend to get upset. But I've got a bunch of really great stories around Angerboda and the different beasts that appeared in Norse mythology, and a lot of really wonderful local folklores, really from all over the world that my family have collected. But when I tell those stories, people get upset for some reason. I would love to hear your farm folklore. I would love to. I would love to tell them. Kayla, hello, good to see you. Currently writing a story about dragons, and now I'm stuck. What are you stuck in? Thank you for the rose, love. Appreciate you for that. Tips of the tavern keeper, always appreciated. I hate work mornings because I have to get up way earlier than I like. Morning may as well be a bad swear word for me. It's like that for us here as well. The lady, especially the lady of the tavern, she hates the mornings. If she could skip morning for everybody, she would. I would pay extra attention if it's from the family or clan. I'm also writing a stories to manga format, of course. I'll draw it out once I have a beefy tablet or an iPad. Yeah, the lady does work like that, Yukino. So you definitely want something to be able to do it. Well, that's right, Esther. You're a self-fulfilling prophecy. You made yourself a ghost, so no one can see you now. That's quite a family heritage. It is. It is. My grandfather's family is truly incredible, and they're a small group, but he raises all of his children, or the family raises all of their children, I should say, in the tradition of story keeping and storytelling, and we pass it along from parent to child. I like her more already. Great minds think alike. Yes, indeed. Bear, we should gather some Dreamtime tales for you guys, give them a taste of from the upside down. I don't have as much folklore from Australia as I would like. I know my grandfather has huge books of it, but it wasn't ones that particularly interested me when I was young. So I don't have as much Australian folklore in my notebooks and in my records as I would like. And unfortunately, my grandfather and I are not on speaking terms, so I can't access any of that. What's the? Do you mean Scottish Gaelic or do you mean Gaeilge? Because in Gaeilge I think it's or, like O R, or Oir. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've spoken or even had to think in Gaeilge. I wish I had that strong kind of heritage. You're truly blessed. I am because I actually wasn't born in Ireland. I was born in the United States, and my grandfather adopted me when I was about 6 months old, and I grew up there. I actually thought I was born in Ireland until I was about 20 years old. Because I grew up there. I was with my grandfather throughout the entirety of my youth, so I don't know. Martin, when you say Dreamtime, it makes me think of the ElfQuest comic books. Ooh, yeah. So, you have any folklore on the Dog Man? Uh, dog Dogman is not specific enough. Hills, what Dogman do you mean? Do you mean Dogman like werewolves or skinwalkers or shape changers? What do we mean there? And it says awesome. It's quite a heritage. It is. I was very privileged to grow up with my grandfather the way that I did. So in my family, I don't know if it would be necessarily, but in our family law, Kayla, we say duv and duv salas, which means light and dark light. So it's like, or we say salas and duv salas, which means light and dark light. So light and shadow is essentially what it translates to. Oh, we've got tons of folklore on werewolves and skinwalkers and things like that. Tons of them. I was born in Canada, always been here, just Christian stories in my youth, and never knew there were options then. Which happens a lot. Like a lot of Europeans will say that's not the case, but most Europeans grow up that way too. Like Canadians and Americans get a bad rap for not being cultured. Most Europeans are not significantly more cultured than Americans are. It's just it's a load of like elitist bollocks. That's very much so not true. It's just a bunch of what we would say gobshite and shithawk about it. I think one reason people find your stories unsettling is because the way you portray Odin, as though Odin swindled your ancestors and so your family bore him a grudge. I portray Odin as Odin portrays himself. I think most people just don't read the source material well enough to understand it. Like, it's not to say that Odin was not respected by the ancestors, because he was. He was a very powerful chieftain. But the way that we look at these old stories is not the same way academia and theology looks at them. Academia and theology looks at those stories as if every mighty being that is referenced is a god, and was worshipped. We don't look at those stories that way. We look at them like in the same way that like a child will tell a story about their father, like their father is some epic hero. That is the way that mighty ancestors who did mighty things would be referred to in stories. So, and that's the way that a lot of these stories are written, in a lot of ways that a lot of them are told. And if you look at the hyperbole in things like Shakespearean writing, that gives you a little bit of context for how storytellers tended to embellish folk tales. I love werewolves, so I'd love to hear some more about them. Yeah, I save the werewolf tales for wintertime and fall, but I can throw a couple of like werewolf sort of Ireland and Norway, or Ireland and Scandinavia, I should say. Ireland and the Norse, the Old Norse, the Nordic stories around werewolves, I think are some of my favorite because they make the most sense. Like they have the most sensical aspect to it. It is funny. I think that you are right. I think that there's a part of it, Calamitous. I think that you definitely have you have a point in that. But it is funny because if if you had a family member, let's say, who everybody told this family member, hey, if you keep doing this thing, if you like, let's say, let's do something explicit, right? If you keep doing illicit substances in excess, you're probably gonna die or get somebody hurt, right? Your family keeps telling this person that, and no matter what anybody does, they never change their ways. They never try to change their ways. They just continue moving forward with that over and over and over and over and over again. So, would you speak of that person's actions as favorable when you tell their story? Probably not. Odin did great and terrible things in Norse myth. Now, they talk about Agormir or Ymir as being like this evil creature, but there's nothing in the stories that says that Agormir was evil. Ymir was more of like a dragon style figure in Norse myth. He was this indomitable. thing, this great and powerful thing, I do have some source materials on which there's not a lot folklore-wise that has been written down, but I do have some family stories and I do have some academic sources that I can put into some future stories, Lucy, if you would like. And but in Odin's stories himself, he is obsessively and perpetually seeking to increase his own wisdom, his own knowledge, his own power, in spite of the fact that he knows doing so is going to lead to a specific outcome. It's actually funny, I have a video coming out on that too that's probably going to make people angry. A tale of 6 convicts who escapes from Macquarie Harbour prison with an axe, travel through Tasmanian bush, and end up cannibalizing each other. Run, there's another one, don't you frown, chew the meat and hold it down. It's a tale they won't believe when I get down to Hobarton. That is a crazy bit of poetry you've got going on there, Martin. Is that like a traditional poem or something? That's a true there. So I try to stay away from the darker stories because, like, generally, I try to tell stories that are either fun or interesting. Like sometimes I'll tell a little bit of dark things, but I try to keep it to a minimum. But there are some really incredible dark stories out there that I sort of avoid. I don't know, I kind of felt that the Emir tale was one that could have been fabricated out of whole cloth. I mean, the bones of a giant become the entire world. That's either complete fiction or one hell of an allegory. Well, I think that it's a little bit of both because if you read Norse mythology not as a cosmic story but as a local story. If you read Norse mythology as a local story, as in these were warring kingdoms that would found the line of an entire ethno group of people, then the stories tend to make more sense, right? Like this giant that was slain, his body becomes an entire like this thing or creature or nation that was defeated creates an entire, because there are two ways you can read Norse mythology. And I think that the cosmic side of it has its purposes, and I think that the human side of it has its purposes. And the Aesir and Vanir were indeed warring kingdoms, right? And if you look at it like the Aesir, the Vanir, and the Jotnar, the Jotun, were all warring kingdoms, as opposed to them being different races, the story makes a lot more sense. If you look at groups like the women of the Ironwood, the troll wives, as being like these sort of outer lands barbarians, the way that the Romans would have considered the Gauls and the Cornish and the Irish and whatnot. If you look at it from that perspective, Norse mythology starts to make a lot more sense than if you take it strictly from the cosmological sense. I think that there is something to be said of the cosmological aspect of it, but I think people put too much weight into the cosmological aspect of Norse mythology and not enough weight into the human side. And that's why so many people get so attached to this idea of this incredible expounded cosmology, and they ignore the lessons that come in the grounded aspect of the myth, treating it like pseudo-history as opposed to treating it like some impossible mythology. The Picts were another group that the Romans didn't like. And if you treat these outgroups in Norse mythology like they were these barbarians who opposed the in-group, which would have been the Aesir and Vanir and Jotnar and all that. Going to bed now. Thank you for the stories in the drink. Good night. Good night, Dragon. Rest well, my friend. I'm glad you could drop in. Tease but a scratch. That would be spectacular. Then wisps it shall be. Song also called A Tale They Won't Believe, a weddings, parties, anything, based on a true story. Each verse is on how each of them dies and becomes said banquet. That's wild. Martin, you need to send me that. I want to look it up. Yes, barbarian. Because the word barbarian comes from the word barbar, which means to like flap your lips, and it refers to anybody who didn't speak uh, Greek or Latin. I don't remember what it was, Greek or Latin. I think it was Greek or Latin. Uh, yeah, barbar means to like flap one's lips nonsensically. So barbarian is just anyone who didn't speak the Roman, whose natural language was not the Roman language. Very well put, my friend. Thank you, buddy. I do my best. All right. I'm gonna get back to reading because I just realized I've been waffling again for another 20 odd minutes. Uh, let's. Oh, we've got 10 minutes. Let's see. How long is this chapter? We got quite a ways to go in the chapter. Another 14 pages. So why don't we run? Why don't we do another ad run on Twitch since I've already stopped, and then we will we'll pick up from there. Let's see, I don't even remember where I. So they put the cloaks on. Let's see. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is a good place. We're gonna run ads here for a second. That's all right, Caleb. Matty does that all the time over on the Twitch portal. I would be willing to have one or two of these a week. Well, one or two of these a month, not a week. Good lord, I don't have time for that. One or two of these a month, where if you guys want to come in and ask me questions about storytelling and writing and language, and again, I'm way out of practice in speaking Guerga. I haven't spoken fluently probably in 20 years. But the lady and I are in the process of relearning together. If you guys wanted to come in and talk to these things, then yeah, I'd be glad to. Let's go ahead and do another ad run over on Twitch. We'll be back in 3 minutes for those of you who do not have a turbo or a subscription, and then we'll start the read again. What are you cackling at over there, Calamitous? Thank you, Martin. I appreciate you, my friend. Yeah, and I do too. I love the Norse myths and the sagas. I think that modern day religiosity, I think a lot of people hate Christianity so much that they start to seek out other things to replace it, and in doing so, they kind of end up imposing Christianity onto these other ideas in a pseudo way. So when you, and I don't mean to bring it up as a religion. I just say this because a lot of the folks who I talk to about Norse myth and Norse culture and Celtic myth and Celtic cultures, because it is important to note that Celtic cultures is the way it should be said. Kayla, thank you for the roses, love. I appreciate you. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated, and thank you for that. Love you so much. I'm still having a sass off, are you? One of the issues. Oh, what I was saying is that it is Celtic cultures. Celtic is again another Roman era term that refers to basically all of these different groups, which would be like the Gauls, the Galatians, the Picts, the Cornish, the Welsh, the Scottish, the Irish, the Malaysians, the Firbolg. All of these groups would be Celtic groups. But the cultures, some of them are similar, like Ireland and Scotland's cultures are very similar. And Scotland and Wales have a similar culture. But they're similar but different. And what ends up happening is that a lot of people will take and impose these preconceived religiosities onto old ideas, and most of the time they don't align. So it ends up giving this massive misconception about what our ancestors believed and what our ancestors did. And you are, I want to preface this by saying you're all allowed to believe whatever you want to believe. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. You can believe whatever you like. I'm not a priest. I don't particularly care what any of you believe or what you want to believe. My job as a storyteller is to keep, preserve, and pass on stories. That's it. I have no stock in whether you believe the stories, whether you believe that my version of the story is correct, whether you believe that the history is as it is. My only job is to pass along the stories. I have no stock in what you believe in regards to that. But what will end up happening with a lot of these more pagan ideas is a lot of people leave Christianity, go to paganism, and then they end up taking a lot of the things that they grew up with and held dear, and then imposing that onto paganism. And it ends up creating this sort of pseudo mythological idea of what things were, and it becomes wildly inaccurate, and then we go out and kind of spread those things. And so I end up with a lot of people coming and asking me questions and talking about things that I don't know, because a lot of it is made up very recently. Thing is, it is important to live by a moral code that doesn't imply we are all just meat. If there's no long-term consequence, then it's just an invitation to be evil. That's true. And a lot of people disagree with that, but if there is no higher power, and first of all, I refuse to believe that there is nothing after. That's just my personal belief. The idea that everything is a mistake, or an accident, or a cosmic coincidence, I think is just silly. Well, however you want to believe the universe came about is entirely up to you. But to me, it's really hard to look at the world as it exists and go, this just came from nothing. That's my personal opinion. It's just an invitation to be. And if we leave everything to everyone's subjective morality, people are inherently bad. And this is the one thing I've learned going around. We are inherently not good in our hearts. We have to learn to be good. And if you want evidence of that, look at how cruel children can be just innately. Children are incredibly cruel right off the gullet. And they'll say mean things, they'll hurt each other, they'll hurt other people because they have to be taught to be good. So you have to learn goodness. Goodness is a learned thing, not an innate thing. And if we were to leave like what is good and what is bad up to subjective morality, it ends up leading to a lot of really terrible things. We've seen that throughout all of history. Christianity, I think, is honestly an excuse for people to feel seen and feel important and or better than others, and just experience. Not everyone that I've met is that way. I think a lot of Christianity ends up being that way. I don't think that the core of Christianity is that way, because if you read what Jesus Christ taught, like if you read the Bible, it's not that way. But I think a lot of Christian groups end up being that way, and it goes back to something I said before, which is people will say that absolute power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't think that that's true. I think the corrupt seek out absolute power. I think that ends up being what it is. The corrupt will seek out power. That's why there are so many corrupt people in power. And I think a lot of corrupt people and a lot of bad people see how Christianity influences people and the power it has to influence people. And I think that they then go and grab a hold of it as a tool to then manipulate people. And because a lot of people will go into religion being vulnerable, people go to religion because they're vulnerable and broken, and they want a deeper meaning in their life. So then if the person who is supposed to be leading them is corrupt, it doesn't matter what Jesus said or what the Bible said, because the person who is conveying the message is inherently doing things in the incorrect way, is doing things specifically to manipulate people. And that's the whole story of Martin Luther, right? I don't know how many of you know who Martin Luther is, but Martin Luther was a monk in the church, a Catholic monk, and these monks would like crawl on the floor and drag the skin off of their knees as a way of like repenting of their sins. And they were selling indulgences to get people out of purgatory and hell, which purgatory is a Roman pagan belief. It's not even a Christian belief. Purgatory was a Roman pagan belief. And Martin Luther then finally read the Bible, because it was not something that was done. Martin Luther read the Bible, and then he was like, oh my God, this is not what is being taught. This is not what is being taught. None of what the church is telling people is what is in this book. So he went through this whole deal to retranslate it well, I don't remember the number, but his theses that he nailed to the door and all of that. That was a whole big thing, and he spent the rest of his life under threat of being assassinated by the church because he told the truth. So you're 100% right that a lot of churches, and this is true of any ideological belief. This happens with any really influential idea. You'll end up with bastards who come in who try to bastardize it and manipulate people in light of it. Which is why it's important that things be based off of a central ideal and not off of what people say, in a way. I'm sorry, I went off on a wild rant there. I was raised Christian and they went wicked. And that's a lot of people end up doing that. And and a lot of people will end up going and leaving church, not because of anything that is wrong with the Bible or Jesus itself, but because a lot of churches are really bad. Sell a ribbon, save your soul. Yeah, exactly. Exactly that, Barry. The more I learn about the past, the more I realize how much I do not know and how much more I need to listen. History is so ridiculously important, and it's becoming increasingly popular to ignore it, or to tell it in a way that is very selective. I get a lot of grief from people on all sides of the spectrum of history and ideology because I don't tell stories in a way that is meant to appeal to ideology, because I don't believe that ideology is how we should look at history. I tell the stories as I know them, as best as we understand them, from what the historical evidence points to. And even if that's inconvenient, even if that's not good, that is the best way to tell a story. I was Christian Catholic, but I still respected and find more peace in nature and stories of the older gods. And I don't think that those things are mutually exclusive, Barry. I don't think that those things are separate. I think that feeling wonder and power from the overwhelming power of nature is not outside. I don't think that those two things necessarily have to be separate. Oh, Baptist race. That makes okay. Well, I won't. I try not to. I try not to talk directly about any specific religion because I'm not here to tell you guys what to believe. Again, but Baptist, there's a lot there. Revelation refers to the final battle between those who have Jerusalem and those who did not earn entry to it. Then fire leapt from one person to another until it was a lake of fire, which Satan is then thrown into that lake. That isn't hell, though. No, that is not hell. Hell in the Bible, as it's described by Jesus Christ, is you choose to live your life permanently separate from God. So God honors that after you die and you live eternity permanently separate from God. That is what is described as hell in the Bible. Same, I still hold some belief in what I was taught, but ultimately I do my best to live peaceful life. Golden rule, I choose nature as my church. And I think that that's fair enough. A lot of people were wronged by the church, and there's no getting around that. And a lot of Christians will be like, we'll want to dance around that. And that doesn't do them any favors. The church has more often than not been run by bastards. Like, there have been absolutely dreadful popes. But the thing is if you read the New Testament, if you read Jesus' ministry, it talks about that. It does say, hey, there are going to be these bastards and imitators who are going to come in, and they're going to use my name and my ministry to try and convince you to do other things. Don't do that. It's actually like the whole of Paul's gospel talks about that. And we don't need to, I'm sorry, I'm getting way too into the history of all of this. I love these conversations, and it's something that is so wildly misunderstood, and I love to talk about it. But I know a lot of people don't want to talk about religion. That's why I'm trying to stick to the historicity of it, not talk about the ideology of it. He who doesn't learn history is doomed to make the same mistakes. Absolutely, Mark. That's 100% it. Good night, Lucy. Rest well. I'm gonna get back to reading. I'm sorry. We went off on this huge long thing, and now I'm flitting through it. Yeah, there are a lot of groups that call themselves Christians, but if you want to know, like, what a Christian is. Well, like, what a Christian actually is, not people who call them, because there's a lot of people who are going to claim that title, like, because of what Cassie said. There's like a prestige to it, right? There's a certain level of There's a certain level of like implied superiority to the or moral superiority to being Christian in modern day. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm a Christian," as a way of sounding morally superior. But if someone is a Christian, they will be a Bible-believing Christian, and they will go based off of the ministry of Jesus Christ. And if they don't do that, then the chances are they're not actually a Christian. They're just picking a title that makes them sound better because they want to be morally superior. Which, if you're trying to be morally superior to people, you've already failed. That's already a failure if you're to believe the teachings of Jesus Christ. So, okay, all right, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox now. But that's half the Tavern's appeal, going off on tangents. I know, I think that some people, when I get into these long tangents, they think I'm being preachy. Again, I'm not telling you all what to believe. You can believe whatever you like. I'm just talking about the historicity of these things. And there are so many misconceptions about the historical aspects of these stories. Right, just because you pray doesn't make you good. There's a standard that has been set. There is an understanding that has been set. I like to look at the monks lately doing peace walk. It's nice to see churches opening up to them. Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of conversation that can be had about this. It doesn't necessarily need to be had here, but I love talking about these historical things because there's so much about history that is misunderstood or intentionally misinterpreted in order to manipulate people, and I don't like that. So I do my best to tell the stories as well as I can from what is known and what is understood and what the evidence points to, even if it's an inconvenient truth, even if it's something that I don't particularly like. Like, I love Ireland. Ireland is my home away from home, and I love America. America is one of the most beautiful places in the world. But they are not without their faults. They are not without their sins. They are not without their terrible things. And you have to be willing to acknowledge the bad and the good, not just the bad and not just the good, if we're going to be able to move forward. And that is what storytelling is all about. It is about passing on the stories as simply and as explicitly as you can so that people can learn from them. Darkwood says, I agree, because history is grey overall with good and bad and terrible aspects. Yes, it's true. Like, even when you want to look at probably the worst thing of in recent memory, which would be World War II, the English and the Allies, they were not completely innocent of atrocity in everything that was done, but that doesn't take away from the good that was done. I mean, lots of people dislike Russia, but World War II would have gone directly to the Germans if it weren't for Russia. Probably the real heroes of World War II were the Russians. They don't get credited as that, but they held the baddies. I'm not going to say the word because I'll get banned, but they held the baddies at bay for a long time. Anyways. I don't mind your soapbox rants. I always learn something new from. I'm glad, Molly, because a lot of times I feel like I've just gone off of a massive sometimes I feel like I just went on a massive runaway train ride when I get on some of these topics. A 4'2" man needs a box to stand on. It's true, Bear, I do. I can listen to you speak for hours. Your words are true. Your soul is rich, and your voice is a gift of the Lord. People will listen. Thank you, Elijah. I appreciate that. Speaking of the prophets, we have an Elijah in here. History has always been written by the victor. To a degree. I have a video coming out on this too. History is written by the literate. Now, a lot of times it is influenced by the victors, but history is written by the literate, which is why even when Christians were being persecuted in Rome and in other places, they are the ones who wrote about the rise and fall of the Romans. Because a lot of the literate people were Christian scribes. When you look at the difference between Sparta and Athens, for instance, Athens wrote about the fall of Athens because the Spartans were not overwhelmingly literate. So the Athenians wrote about their own downfall because the Spartans were not significantly literate enough to do so. So in a way, yes, history is written by the victors, but it is more often written by the literate. It's why we have this massive stretch of time between like the year 300 and now, where most of the records that are written were written by Christian scribes and monks, because the overwhelming majority of people outside of that were not literate. And then before that, a lot of them were Greek, and some of them were like high-ranking Arabs who were Muslim officials and things like that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got off on a massive wild tangent there. I'm sorry, friends. We'll get back to reading. If it wasn't for the Russians, we would all be speaking Deutsch. That's true. That is true, Tyson. Shall I describe it to you, or should I bring you a box? Wait, what do you mean, Frost? I feel like you're making a joke and I don't understand it. No, am I too dumb to understand the joke? I'm back-ish. I just have to keep an ear open. That's all right, Matty. That's all right. How it is written also depends on where you are. That's true. That's true, because no one is going to be completely unbiased in the way they record history, except for Gerald of Wales. Gerald of Wales, I will stand by. That man had no alliance to anybody. Failed to send what? Here's an interesting thing. Bob Heinlein said, moral behavior is a survival instinct when it is extended beyond the self. Expound, Castle. No, I agree, and that's a great topic, but we have 14 more pages to finish, and it's almost 8 o'clock. It's almost 8 o'clock. Thank you for the warm welcome to your tavern. I will be back. Time to head to bed. Have a good night, everyone. Good night, Anna. Rest well. I appreciate you sitting through my lunacies. There's... Yeah, well, I was talking to somebody in the guild about this a little while back. It's like our family keeps pretty meticulous records, and we have for a really long time. We've tattooed family histories on our backs in sort of a code, like a sort of abridged version of the runic Om. We've done that for a very long time, and because of that, my grandfather has a bunch of books that are made out of human skin that have the histories of our family on it. And even with the meticulous records that his family has kept throughout the years, we have lost tens of thousands of pages just in the last 100 years from war. We've lost tens of thousands of pages. And it is crazy to think about, which is why I tell people, when you look at what has survived, if it's older than 100 years old, if you look at what has survived, you have to understand that, one, it was written from a perspective. Two, it is a very small portion of all that ever was. And three, we're looking at it through modern interpretation, because you know nothing about what it was like to live in the 1920s. So how can you even presume to know what it was like to live in the 1420s? So you have to look at it with this level of, I don't know, and move forward with that. Do it. Clubbers, I have 14 pages left. I need to finish. Tonight was a wonderful night to have been a part of the tavern. Gunnar, I'm glad that you've been here, brother. I'm glad. It's all good. Love to talk to people who can talk sensibly about getting caught up in the drama. That is all the tavern is. I don't know if I've said this before, but we have a strict rule that drama, dogma, and petty political pittances, they all have to be checked at the door. If we're going to be in here, all the conversations are adult, and we don't get emotional about what other people think. You can't control what other people think, and it's very silly to get upset or emotional because you can't control what other people think. That is human nature. So all conversations in here have to be respectful, and they have to be to a point of being willing to consider the other perspective, even if that perspective is wildly stupid. You need to be at least willing to consider it in order to have a respectful conversation. Good chat all night. Yeah, I know. So, sometimes we get on one, Barry, and we just keep going. My family has made books of human skin. Sounds like some horror movie. I know it sounds terrible. Like, the chieftains, the eldest sons of our family for hundreds of years, they have their backs tanned after they die. So their family tree has like a record written into it, and those skins are tanned after they pass away. I know it sounds like a horror movie, but skin preserving human skin was a very common trend amongst the Irish for a very long time. Message has been sent on Instagram, brother. Thank you, Kerry. I appreciate you, brother. Still want to hear your stories about Ratatoskr. I need to do more. Ratatoskr stories usually excite the tavern, so. History with Castle, I would have paid more attention to that class for sure. I love the number of comments that Lady and I get about, if you guys had been my history teacher, I probably would have learned this the first time. I love that. I get it, but it's like, oh, okay, I know. I forget to like preempt before I bring that topic up. It's definitely from the individual's perspective, and that's a valid to have a neutral zone. Yeah, because there's plenty of places on the internet where you can go to get drama and get people who hate each other and get people who are trying to stir things up. I don't do that. I used to. Like, you can find old videos of me starting fights with people all over the internet. But I just don't like it anymore. It never accomplished, like, I used to bicker with people thinking that if I proved somebody wrong, or if they proved me wrong, because on occasion that does happen, I'm wrong sometimes, not always. It happens, every once in a while. Sometimes I'll think that I'm wrong, and then it turns out I'm right, and in that instance I was wrong. So you see how it goes. And I used to bicker with people thinking that it was going to get somewhere, and eventually I found myself being emotionally dragged and emotionally worn out from having these fights with people who had no desire to change their mind no matter how wrong they were. And so I stopped. I gave it up. I would prefer that the tavern be a place where we can talk about these stories without bringing in all of that bollocks you can get everywhere else. There are 1,000 other places that you can go to get drama. There are 1,000 other places you can go to hear people bicker. There are 1,000 other places you can go to have people hate each other. I'd prefer this not be a place like that. If we're going to be here, this is a place of ideas. Sometimes the ideas are good, sometimes they're bad. The idea is to discuss them and talk about the stories. Is to pass the stories along so they can be a lesson. Not so that somebody can be right and somebody can be wrong and so that we can feel morally or intellectually or spiritually superior over the people. No, this is a place for stories. It's just a place for stories. That's it. Brings a whole different thought process to the term having skin in the game. It's true, Collaborators, it's true. It's how you deliver the material that makes the difference. Thank you, Tyson. I appreciate that. It's a fine compliment. Sadly, my love of history came long after high school. I tell my kids I'm always right unless their mother is. Right. Exactly, Baird. Exactly. Yeah, and sadly, a lot of people don't end up wanting to learn about history until after high school because the way they're taught history in high school is dreadfully boring. And my kind of Picty loved their tattoos. I don't remember how much of the Picts had tattoos, but yeah, for sure they definitely did the blue skin and red skin thing. My history teacher always gave us homework to make questions from reading the chapters. So since I remember what I read, it stuck. Right, and that's a smart way to do it. History is usually presented in such a boring way. Like, my son, Everett, he was going through, and they were teaching him about the Silk Road, and he was so bored. And I was like, I started talking to him about it. I'm like, you do realize that the development and history of the Silk Road led to some of the biggest wars, some of the biggest cultural exchanges in history. If it were not for the Silk Road, the terracotta statues in China never would have existed because they got the inspiration for those terracotta statues from the Hellean Greeks. Is it Hellean? Yes, Hellean Greeks. It's crazy. Like, I'm sorry. I'm gonna read. I apologize. I've been learning just to listen more lately. I want to learn more than be right more, which is so incredibly important. It's so incredibly important to just learn to be correct and be accurate and not worry about being right. So many people, they fight just to be right. Like, this is the hill I've decided I'm gonna die on. This is my perspective. I will be right no matter what. You should be more worried about wanting to be correct. Like, want to be as accurate as you can be, because that is more helpful. That is more beneficial to us all. And okay, now I'm really stepping off the soapbox. Calamitous. Additionally, the way history is taught in high school is, that's half centrally is largely propaganda. That's fair enough. That's true. Every time I hear terracotta, I think of System of a Down. Heathen Alucard, you said I didn't know you went live. I do hope all is well. All is well. We're actually reading, if you can believe that. It brings a whole new meaning to personal history. Yes, it does, Dog Wolf. Um, we just got off on a historical rant, and I'm done now. But we're gonna finish this chapter. Jazz, hello, love. It's good to see you. Welcome in. Oh God. I don't know if I've ever been accused of being intellectual, Tyson. Oh, good lord. Alright, I'm all hot in the face now after that conversation. You guys got me fired up with that one. Alright, let's continue. They had just pulled back. They're in the midst of the goblin siege, and the dwarves have just showed up. This is good news. The dwarves showed up. Alright. But Alucard, I'm glad that you could drop in, my friend. But yes, we do story time every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, usually starting sometime between 4 and 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, sometimes a little bit later. But we're getting better onto the schedule a little bit better as of now. But we do story time 3 times a week, and we are on all of the different portals. A lot of people who just dropped in probably sounded like a lunatic talking to people. We have 5 portals open into the tavern. You can come in through the TikTok portal, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Kick, whichever one strikes your fancy. I'm grateful for the rant. I needed to stretch out for a while. Alright, man. The cavalry has arrived, yes indeed, and I adore your power of rant. Thank you, Jazz. I'm glad you guys appreciate it, because I would be in a bit of a if you can't to go, if you aren't going to do the rant castle, I want to refund. I don't even have a. Wait, I don't even have this in my requests, Calamitous. I see that it's here, but it's not actually in the request queue. I'll have to. I can't do anything about it if it's not in the request queue. Hang on, let me refresh here. Oh, nope, that is yeah, it didn't show up in the request queue for me, Calamitous. I can't do anything. It's there. I mean, I did technically rant just now for like 40 minutes. Yeah, I see the request. It's from 11 minutes ago, but it's not in the queue. I'll find a way to get you your points back, Calamitous. Let's get back to reading for now. I left 40 minutes ago, came back, Castle still. I was still going. But not about the moral behavior and survival instinct. That's true. It was not. Let's finish this chapter and then we'll come back to it. I'll still give you your rant at the end before we do songs. Fair enough? This is getting late. It's almost 8 o'clock. They moved eastward, taking the higher trail. Whenever possible, Ghislaine rode in the van, and they did resemble a company of renegades led by a Moradale. At a point where two trails met, they could again see the city. It squatted against the mountain, smoking rubble. The crater where the keep had stood still spewed forth black smoke. The rocks of the cliff seemed to glow red, in the early morning gloom. Is there nothing left of the keep? Guy asked in quiet wonder. Oh, excuse me. I was editing a bit, but yeah, I did a bit on chapter 2. Getting all the work done, Matty. That's a good work ethic. Amos looked down, his face a stony mask. It was there, he answered, pointing to a spot at the base of the cliff. Now only the raging inferno could be seen as the pool of naphtha burned unabated in the deep pit blown out of the rocks. Nothing that resembled the keep, the inner wall, the moat, or the first dozen blocks of the city could be seen. Those buildings nearest the citadel, still discernible, were little more than piles of rubble. Only the outer wall remained intact, except where the Barbican had been exploded. Everything was gutted, charred black or glowing red. Amos said, It's all gone. Armangar is gone. No building remained intact, and the entire mountainside was shrouded by a blue-black haze of smoke. Even outside the walls, the litter of bodies was appalling. It was clear that Myrmandamus had taken a terrible beating in the sacking of the city, but still his host dominated the plain outside the wall. Banners flew and companies moved as the Moradel warlord ordered his army to march. Amos spat. Look, he still has a larger army in reserve than he threw at us. Aruthu said with a fatigue in his voice. You cost him 15,000 dead, Guy interrupted. And he can still march more than 35,000 against Tirsaw. Elements were moving, and the scouts and outriders were already galloping towards the assigned places along the line of march. Guy studied it for a moment, then said, Damn me! He's not moving south. He's moving his army eastward. Arutha looked at Amos, then at Guy. But that makes no sense. He can hold the dwarves to the west, pushing them back until he's in Yabon. Jimmy said, To the east lies High Castle, finished Arutha. Guy nodded. He's going to march his army down Cutter's Gap, right into High Castle's garrison. Arutha said, But why? He can overrun High Castle in days, but he'll be left standing in the middle of the high wold, unprotected on either flank. He's got no obvious goal. Guy said, If he strikes dead south, he can be in the dim wood inside of a month. Sethanon, said Arutha. Guy said, I don't understand it. He can take Sethanon. Its garrison is little more than an honour company. But once there, what? He can winter, live on forage from the Dimwood, or whatever city stores he captures. But come spring, Liam can hit him from the east, and your forces from the west. He'll be between the hammer and the anvil, with a 500-mile retreat back into the mountains. It would mean his destruction. Amos spit. Let's not underestimate the nose picker. He's up to something. Ghislaine looked about. We'd best be going along. If he's moving east for certain, we'll never be able to double back to reach Inclindale. That patrol we saw will be a company of outriders. They'll stay up here along the entire line of the march, following behind us. Guy nodded. Then we must reach Cutter's Gap before his advanced elements. Arutha spurred his horse, and they began to ride eastward. For the balance of the day, they managed to keep ahead of any of Myrmandamus' soldiers. Occasionally, they would see flankers riding off from the main army, far below the plain, and there were signs of movement behind them. But the trail began moving downward, and near sundown, Arutha said, "We're going to be riding smack into their outer pickets if we keep moving toward the plain." Guy said, "If we continue riding past dark, we might slip into the woods at the bottom of the hills. If we hug the foot of the mountains and ride all night, we'll enter the forest proper. I doubt even Mermandamus will be sending large numbers of soldiers into the forest. He can circle it easy enough. The Edda is no place I'd like to be, but we'll have cover. If we ride all night, we might stay enough ahead of them to be safe, at least from them." Jimmy and Locklear exchanged questioning looks. Then Jimmy said, "Amos, what's he mean?" Amos glanced at Guy, who nodded. "The Edda's a bad place, boy. We could forest for about 3 miles or so into the woods along the edge. A little farther in, a man could hunt. But farther than that, we don't know what's in there. Even the goblins and dark brothers skirt the place. Whoever goes deep into the forest just doesn't come back. We don't know what's in there. The Edda's pretty damn big, so just about anything could hide there." Arutha said, "We leap from cauldron to the fire, then." "Perhaps," answered Guy. "Still, we know what we face if we ride the plain." Jimmy said, "Maybe we could slip by, keep our disguises." It was Ghislaine who answered. "There's no chance, Jimmy. One look, and any Moradrel knows an Eladel instantly. It is something we do not speak of, but simply believe me. There is an instinctive recognition." Amos spurred his mount forward. "Then there's nothing else for it. Into the forest, lads!" They rode as quietly as they could through the woodlands, dark and foreboding. Distant calls echoed from Mermandamus' army, camped for the night in the plains to the north. By moving throughout the night, Arutha judged they would be well ahead of Mermandamus' army by sunup. By midday, they would be out of the forest, back upon the plain, and able to pick up speed. Then, if they could reach Cutter's Gap and Brian, Lord Highcastle, there was a chance of slowing Mermandamus all the way down the high wold and through the dim wood. Jimmy spurred his horse forward and overtook Ghislaine. "I've got this funny itch," softly the elf said. "I feel it too. I almost sense something familiar about these woods. I can't put a name to it." Then, with elvish humor, he added, "But then, I am only a youngster, barely 40 years of age." Returning the dryness, Jimmy said, "An infant." Guy rode next to Arutha and said, "We might just get to our castle." He was quiet for a while. Then at last said, "Arutha, returning to the kingdom possesses some problems for me." Arutha nodded in understanding, though the gesture was lost in the dark. "I'll speak to Liam. I assume that once at Highcastle, I'll have your parole. Until we sort this mess out, you'll be under my protection." Guy said, "I'm not worried over my fate. Look, I've what's left of a small nation streaming down into Yabon. I just want to ensure they'll be well cared for." His voice revealed a deep sense of despair. "I vowed to rebuild Armangar. We both know that will never be." Arutha said, "We'll work out something to bring your people into the kingdom, Guy." He studied the form that rode slowly beside him in the darkness. "But what of yourself?" "I've no concern for myself, but look, consider interceding with Liam on Armand's behalf. If he got out, he's a fine general and an able leader. If I had taken the crown, he would have been the next Duke of Bastira. With no son of my own, I couldn't imagine a better choice. You'll need his sort, Ruthie, if we're to weather all that's coming. His only fault is an overblown sense of personal loyalty and honour. Arutha promised to consider the request, and they lapsed into silence. Thank you, Darkwolf, I appreciate you. Testify Music, been loving your short story times on Reels. Keep doing what you're doing, friend. Testify, thank you kindly, and thank you for the follow. I appreciate you for marking the tavern on your map, my friends, and it's very, very good to have you. Thank you so much. Welcome in. For all of the new folks, as I do see we have some new folk across the way, I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth, and lore, and tales of yore, and every now and again, I read you all a story. Good night, I need to go to sleep. Dog has been sick lately, so I've been sleeping. I've not been sleeping as well. Now that she's acting normal tonight, I'll be able to sleep better if I go to bed now. All right, Cassie, I thought you were already off to bed, but have a good night, rest well. Crystal, hello, good to see you, welcome in. So, yes, good night, Cassie, rest well. Hope everyone has a great night. Darkwolf, if you're off, I hope that you have a wonderful night as well. We have another 9 pages in the chapter, and then we'll be done. Oh, Beast, 5 years, 1 month, and 19 days. Follow, Beast, who are... I don't recognize your name. Who are you? Who are you? I don't recognize the name at all. But obviously, if you followed for 5 years... I'm going to be back into reading here in a minute, friends. Oh, MF Beast. Yes, I do. That one I do remember. Well, hello and welcome in, my friend. It's good to see you. I need to get back to reading, but I'll be done here in about 20 minutes. So if you're going to stick around, we'll chat here in a minute. But if you're going to head off, it's good to see you. I'm glad that you dropped in. And I hope to see you around again, my friend. Where was I? Guy approached Ghislaine while they rested the horses and said, "We're now farther into these woods than any Armangarian has travelled and returned." Ghislaine said, "I'll keep alert." He studied Guy's face. "I've heard of you, Guy Dubas-Tira. At last recounting, you're something of an object of distrust," he said with an elven understatement. "Seems the situation has changed." He nodded towards Arutha. Guy smiled a grim smile. For the moment, fate and circumstance occasionally forge unexpected alliances. The elf grinned. "That is true. You have an elf-like appreciation. I would like to hear your tale someday." Guy nodded. Amos approached and said, "I thought I heard something that way." Guy looked where he indicated, and they both discovered Ghislaine gone. Arutha came over. "I had it also, as did Ghislaine. He'll return soon." Guy hunkered down, resting while alert. "Let's hope he's able." Jimmy and Locklear tended to the horses in silence. Jimmy studied his friend. In the gloom, he could only see the little of the boy's expression, but he knew that Locklear still hadn't recovered from Bronwyn's death. Jimmy was visited by a strange sense of guilt. He hadn't thought of Krista since the retreat from the wall. Jimmy tried to shrug aside the irritation. Hadn't they been lovers from desire and entered freely into the relationship? Had any promises been made? Yes and no. But Jimmy felt nettled at the back of his own lack of concern. He didn't wish any harm to Krista, but he didn't see much sense in worrying about her. She was able to take care of herself as any woman Jimmy had met, a soldier by training since childhood. Now, what troubled Jimmy was the absence of concern. He vaguely sensed something was lacking. He became irritated. He'd had enough concern about the others in his life. With Anita's injury and Arutha's mock death, becoming involved with other people was a bloody inconvenience. Finally, he felt his irritation grow into anger. He moved up to Locklear, grabbed his friend roughly, swinging him about. "Stop it!" he hissed. Locklear's eyes widened in surprise. "Stop what?" "It's bloody damn silence. Bronwyn's dead. It wasn't your fault." Locklear's expression remained unchanged, but slowly, moisture gathered in his eyes, and then tears began to run down his face. Pulling his shoulders out from under Jimmy's hands with a shrug, he quietly said, "The horses." He moved away, and his face was still streaked with tears. Jimmy sighed. He didn't know what had possessed him to act that way, but suddenly he felt stupid and thoughtless. And he wondered how Krista was faring. If she was still alive. He turned to the horses and struggled to push away strong emotions. Ghislaine returned at a silent run. "A light of some sort in the woods. I ventured close, but heard movement. They were stealthy, almost passing unnoticed. But I did hear signs that they're coming this way." Guy moved towards his horse, as did the others. Ghislaine mounted, and when the others were ready, he pointed. He whispered, "We must move to the edge of the forest, as far as from the light as we can without being seen by Mamandamus's scouts." He spurred his horse and began to ride forward. He moved about a dozen paces when a figure dropped out of the trees from above, knocking him from the saddle. More detectives leapt down from the trees, and all the riders were dragged from their horses. Arutha hit the ground and rolled to his feet with his sword in his hand. He regarded his opponent, looking into an elf-like face set in a mask of hatred. Then he saw the bowman behind, drawing a bead upon him, and with a strange sense of finality he thought, "This is how it will end at last." The prophecy was wrong. Then the one sitting atop Ghislaine pulled him up by the tunic, his other hand drawn back with a knife. Ready to kill him, he faltered, exclaiming, "Eldehel," followed by a sentence in a language unknown to Arutha. Suddenly, the attackers ran forward, but no attempt was made to kill Arutha's party. Hands restrained them while Ghislaine's attacker helped him to his feet. They spoke rapidly in another language, and Ghislaine motioned to Arutha, then the rest. The others, dressed in grey hooded cloaks, nodded and pointed towards the east. Ghislaine said, "We must go with them." In soft tones, Arutha said, "Do they think us renegades? And you one of them?" The normal elven mask was dropped, and Ghislaine revealed confusion in the gloom. "I don't know what wonder we have stumbled into, Arutha, but these aren't Moradel. They are elves." He glanced about the clearing. "And I've never seen any of them before in my life." So why that's a big deal in this world for any of you who don't know? The elves are exclusively in Elvandar in this world, and most of them have died out, and the ones that haven't died out are called Moradel, and they are brothers of the Dark Path. They follow the ways of old magic. Almost 5 whole years, Calamitous, good lord. But Beast, how have you been, my friend? It's good to see you, it's been a very long time. Hopefully you're still an MFing beast, as it were. Where were we? They were brought before an old elf who sat upon a wooden seat elevated by a platform. The clearing was 70 or so feet wide, and on all sides elves squatted or stood. The surrounding area was their home, a village of huts and small buildings of wood, but totally lacking the beauty and grace found in Elvandar. Arutha glanced about, The elves stood arrayed in unexpected garb. Grey cloaks, much like those worn by the Moradel, were common, and the warriors wore an assortment of leather armor and furs. Odd decorative jewelry of copper and brass set with unpolished stones or necklaces of animal teeth hung about many of the warriors' necks. The weapons were rude but were efficient looking, lacking the fine craftsmanship common to those elven weapons Arutha had seen before. That these were elves was certain, but they possessed a barbaric aspect that caused Arutha no small discomfort. The prince listened as the leader of those who had captured them spoke to the elf upon the seat. Eranon, whispered Galen to Arutha. That means King Redtree. They call that one their king. The king motioned for the prisoners to be brought forward and spoke to Galen. Arutha said, What did he say? The king said, What I said was that your friend, had your friend not been recognized, you'd almost likely be dead now. Arutha said, You speak the king's tongue? The old elf nodded. As well as some Amangarian, we speak the tongues of men, though we have nothing to do with men. We have learned them over the years, from those we have captured. Guy seemed angered. It's been you've been killing my people. And who are you? Asked the king. I'm Guy Dubas Tira, protector of Armangar. The king nodded. One Eye, we have heard of you. We kill any who invade our forest, with the men, goblins, trolls, even our dark kin. We have only enemies without the Torreda. But this, he pointed to Galen, is something new to us. He studied the elf. I would know you and your line. I am Galen, son of one who was brother to one who ruled. He said, not using the names of the dead, in elven fashion. My father is descended from one who drove the Moradel from their homes, and I am cousin of Prince Callan, the nephew to Queen Aglorana. The old elf eyes narrowed, and he studied Galen. You speak of princes, and my son was slain by trolls 70 winters ago. You speak of queens, yet my son's mother died in battle for Nelorod. When our dark brothers last sought to destroy us, you speak of things I do not understand. Galen said, As do you, King Eranon. I do not know where lies Nelorod you spoke of, nor have I heard of your people living north of the great mountains. I speak of those of our kin who live in our home in Elvandar. Several elves said, Barmalindar. Arutha said, What is that word? Galen said, It means golden home, palace, place, land. It's a place of wonder. They think of it as a fable. The king said, Elvandar, Barmalindar, you speak of legends. Our home was destroyed in the days of the mad god's rage. Galen was silent for a long while, as if deeply considering something. Finally, he turned to Arutha and Guy. I'm going to ask that you be taken from here. I must speak of things which I lack wisdom to know if it is proper to share with you. I must speak of those who have gone to the Blessed Isle, and speak of the shame of our race. I hope you understand. To the king he said, I would speak of those things, but they are for the Eladil only to hear. Will you take my friends to a place of safety while I speak? The king nodded and waved for a pair of guards to escort the 5 humans to another clearing. There was no place to sit except upon the ground, so they hunkered down upon the damp soil. They could not hear Galen speak, but they caught faint sound of his voice on the night wind. For hours the elves held council, and Arutha drifted off into a doze. Suddenly Ghislaine was there, motioning for them to rise. I have spoken of things I have thought I'd forgotten. Old lore taught me by spellweavers. I think they believe now, though they are deeply shaken. Arutha looked at the two guards who waited some distance away, respecting Ghislaine's privacy. Who are these elves? Ghislaine said. I understand that when you and Martin passed through Elvendar, on your way to Morrilan, Tathar told you of the shame of our race, the genocidal war conducted by the Moradale against the Glamradale. I think that these are the surviving descendants of the Glamradale. They seem proper elves and are certainly not Moradale, but they have no spellweavers or keepers of lore. They have become more primitive, little more than savages. They have many lost arts of our people I don't know. Perhaps those who survived the last battle, when the first Mermandamus led the Moradel, came here and found refuge. The king spoke of their having lived for a long time in Nedalod, which means place of the beech trees, so they are but recently come to the Edar forest. They've been here long enough to make it impossible for the Armangarians to hunt or lumber deeply, said Guy. At least 3 generations. I'm speaking of elven things and an elven sense of years, answered Ghislaine. They've been here for over 200 years, he regarded the two guards, and I don't think that they are entirely free of the Gamradel heritage. They're much more warlike and aggressive than we of the Elvendar. Almost as much as the Moradel. I don't know. This king seems unsure of what should be done. He's taking counsel now with his elders, and I expect we'll hear of what they wish in a day or two. Arutha looked alarmed. In a day or two, Mermandamus will again be between us and Cutter's Gap. We must be away this day. Ghislaine said, I'll return to council. Perhaps I can explain a few things to them about the way the world works outside of this forest. He left them, and they sat again, resigned at having nothing to do but wait. Good night, Molly. Rest well. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we will see you again on Sunday, or on Thursday, for more story time. Nearly half the day had passed when Ghislaine returned. The king will let us go. He'll even provide an escort to the valley that leads to Cutter's Gap, along the clear trail. So we will reach it before Mermandamus' army. They'll have to go around the forest, while we'll go straight through. Arutha said, I was worried we might have trouble. We did. You were going to be killed, and they were still deciding what to do with me. What changed their mind? Said Amos. Mermandamus. I mentioned that name, and you would have thought someone had struck a branch in a hornet's nest. They've lost much lore, but that is the one name they remember. There is no doubt we have found the descendants of the Glamradel here. I judge about 300 or 400 in the immediate area from the number of those in council, and there are more living in the distant communities, even though it doesn't pay for anyone to bother them in any event. Will they help the fight? Asked Guy. Ghislaine shook his head. I do not know. Sethanon is a sly one. If he should bring his people to Elvendar, they'd be welcomed, but not entirely trusted. There's too much of a savage about them. It would be years before everyone was comfortable. He also knows that in council of a true elf queen, he would be only a minor member, as he is not even a spellweaver. He would be included as a gesture to his people, and also because he is among the oldest of the elves living in the Edar forest. But here, he is a king, a poor king, but still a king. No, this will not be an easy or simple problem. But that is the sort of question we elves are willing to spend years pondering. I've given Erenor clear instructions of the way to Elvandar, so that should his people wish to return to our mother forest, they may. They will come not as pleases them, while for now we must make for High Castle. Arutha rose and said, Good, at least we have one less problem. Jimmy followed Arutha toward the horses and said to Locklear, As if the ones we have left are such piddly little things. Amos laughed and clapped the boys on the shoulders. The horses were at their limit, for Arutha and his companions had been riding them hard for almost a week. The tired animals were footsore and slow, and Arutha knew they had only just managed to stay ahead of the invaders. The day before, they had spotted smoke behind them as Mermandamus's advance scouts made camp at the day's end. This lack of caution being spotted showed their contempt for the garrison between them and the kingdom. At Cutter's Gap was the south end of a wide valley running through the teeth of the world. Rock-strewn and densely grown, the brush for most of its length, then it cleared with no vestige of cover. Only scorched ground could be seen. Jimmy and Locklear glanced about, and Guy observed. We've reached the limit of Hardcastle's control. It probably burned here every year to keep the area uncovered so no one can approach undetected. As the 6th day since their leaving Edar Forest was drawing close, the valley began to narrow and they entered the gap. Arutha slowed his horse as they looked about, softly observing. Remember Rhodes saying that 30 mercenaries held back 200 goblins here? Jimmy nodded, thinking of the fun-loving mercenary, and they rode the gap in silence. Halt! And identify yourselves! Came the cry from the rocks above. Arutha and the others reined in and waited while the speakers revealed himself. A man stepped out from behind the rock above the rim of the gap, a man wearing a white tabard and a red stone tor depicted upon it. Still clear in the twilight of evening, a company of riders appeared from down the narrow canyon, while bowmen rose up on all sides above. Arutha slowly raised his hands. I am Arutha, Prince of Krondor. There were several laughs, and the officer in charge said, And I'm your brother the king, nice and bold, renegade, but the Prince of Condor lies dead in his family's vault in Milanon. If you'd have been running weapons to goblins, you'd have heard. If you'd not been running weapons to the goblins, you'd have heard, Arutha shouted back. Get me Brian Highcastle! The leader of the horsemen rode up next to the prince and said, Put your hands behind you, there's a good lad. Arutha removed his right gauntlet and held out his signet. The man studied it and then shouted, Captain, have you seen a royal seal of Krondor? A flying eagle over a mountain peak. Well, then whether he's a prince or not, he's wearing the ring. The man looked at the others. And he's got an elf with him too. An elf? You mean a dark brother? The soldier looked confused. You better come down here, sir, he said to Arutha. We'll get this straight in a minute, your highness. He added in a soft voice, just in case. The captain took several minutes to reach the floor of the gap, then came to stand next to Arutha. He studied the prince's face. It's a good likeness, I'll warrant, but the prince never wore no beard. Then Guy said, As thick-headed as you are, it's no wonder our man sent you to Hardcastle. Walter of Glendholt. The man regarded Guy for a moment and then said, Bloody hell! It's the Duke of Bastira! And this is the Prince of Krondor. The man called Walter kept looking back and forth and said, But you're dead, and or at least that's what the royal proclamation said. He turned to Guy. And it's your head to return to the kingdom, your grace. Arutha said, Get us to Brian and we'll straighten this out. His grace is under my protection, as are these others. Now, Can we stop this foolishness and ride on? There's an army of dark brothers and goblins a day or so behind us, and we think Brian would appreciate hearing about it. Walter of Glintholt motioned for the man who led the company to turn around. Take them to the Lord High Castle, and when it's all sorted, come back and tell me just what the bloody hell's going on. Arutha rode down the razor. He ran his hand over his again clean face and said, So we left the elves and rode straight here. Brian, Lord Hindcastle, commander of the detachment of Cutter's Gap, said, An incredible tale, Highness. Were I not seeing you here with my own eyes with Dubastira sitting there, I'd not believe a word. The kingdom thinks you're dead. We had a day of memorial in your honour at the king's request. He sat observing the weary travellers as they cleaned up and ate in the barracks room he had given over to Arutha and his companions. The old commander was stiff in posture, as he were constantly at attention. He looked more a parade ground soldier than a frontier commander. Amos, who was busy gulping a flagon of wine, said, If you're going to have one of those, it's best to do it before you're dead, so you can enjoy it. Shame you missed it, Arutha. Guy said, How many of my men with you? Highcastle said, Most of your officers were sent to Iron Pass and Northward, but we've two of your better ones, Baldwin de la Torreville and Anthony de Massigny, and a few remain at Bastira. Giles Martin Dreams rules your city now, as Baron du Corvus. Guy said, He'd like to be Duke, no doubt. Arutha said, Brian, I'd like to evacuate back to Sethanon, but that's Marmandovis's obvious target, and city could benefit from your soldiers there. This position is untenable. Highcastle said nothing for a long moment, then said, No, Highness. Amos said, Say no to the prince. Ha! The Baron cast a sidelong glance at Amos and then said to Arutha, You know my charter, and I'm a vassal of your brother, no one else. I'm given the security of this pass. I will not abandon it. My gods, man, said Guy, will you not take our word? An army of more than 35,000 are marching, and you've what, 2,000 soldiers spread over the hills? From the hillway to the North Warden, to halfway to Tearsalk, he'll overrun you in half a day. So you say, Guy, but I've no first-hand knowledge of what you say is true. Arutha, stunned, while Amos said, Now you're calling the prince a liar? Brian ignored Amos. I've no doubt you've seen some heavy concentration of Dark Brothers up north, but 30,000 seems unlikely. We've been dealing with them for years, and our best intelligence is there couldn't be any force of them larger than 2,000 in a field under one commander. We can easily handle that many from this position. Guy spoke in an uncontrolled fury. Have you been daydreaming while Arutha's been speaking, Brian? Didn't he tell you we lost a city with a 60-foot-high wall, approachable from only one side, defended by 7,000 battle-tested soldiers under my command? And who has long been recognized as the finest military mind in the kingdom? Highcastle said, I know of your reputation, Guy. And against Kesh you performed well. But we border lords face unusual situations as a matter of course. I'm sure we can deal with these Dark Brothers. The Baron pushed himself away from the table and moved towards the door. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have my duty to see to. May continue to rest here as long as you wish. But remember, here I am the supreme commander until the king decides otherwise. Now, I judge you all need rest. Please feel free to dine with my officers and myself in 2 hours. I'll send the guard to wake you. John T, hello. Klein, hello. Good to see you again. And Erin, thank you for the heartily. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. Gunnar, have a good night, my friend. Rest well. Oh, I did miss your note about the ads. Bear, I apologize. I was reading all the way through it. But good night, Gunnar. Rest well. I hope you have a wonderful evening, brother. Thank you for joining us. We're almost done, friends. Just a few more lines. Arutha sat down at the table after Highcastle had left. Amos said, "That man's an idiot." Guy leaned forward, chin in hand. "No, Brian's doing his duty as he sees fit. Unfortunately, he's no general. His patent came from Roderick as something of a joke. He's a southerner, a court noble with no prior battle training, and he's had little trouble with goblins up here." "He came to cry to you once when I was a boy," said Arutha. "I thought him a dashing fellow. The Border Lords." He said that last was said with bitter humour. "He'll do as he wishes," said Guy. "He's had mostly troublemakers, like Walter Glindolt, sent to his service. Our man sent him here 5 years ago for stealing from the company treasury. He's been a senior knight lieutenant before that. But," added Guy, "because of politics, some good men are here as well. Baldwin de la Troiville and Anthony de Massigny are both first-rate officers. They had the misfortune to be loyal to me. I'm sure it was Coldrick who suggested to Liam they be sent to the border." Amos said, "Still, what good? Do you propose we incite a mutiny?" Guy said, "No, but at least when the butchering begins, the garrison will die under some competent officers, along with the fools." Arutha leaned back in his chair, feeling fatigue course through his body. He knew they must do something soon, but what? His mind spun with confusion, and he knew it was dulled by lack of sleep and by tension. No one in the room spoke. After a moment, Lockley arose and made his way to one of the bunks to lay down. Without words to the others, he was quickly asleep. Amos said, "That's the best idea I've heard in weeks." He made his way to another bunk, and, with a deep groan of satisfaction, settled into the soft embrace of the down comforter. "I'll see you at supper." The others followed his example. Soon all were asleep except Arutha, who tossed and turned, his mind visited by visions of hosts of goblins and Moradil overrunning his nation, killing and burning. His eyes refused to stay closed, and at last he sat up, a cold sweat on his body. He glanced about and saw the others were all slumbering. He lay back down and waited for sleep to come. But he was still awake when the call for supper came. And so ends Chapter 15 of A Darkness at Sethanon. Wow, guys, we might be done with this book sooner than I thought. Look at that. We have but a fifth of this book left, maybe. These chapters are so long, it's insane. We have maybe a fifth of the book left before we are on to the end of it. Oh. Jazz, Bear, thank you both for sticking with us all the way to the end. Oh, my friends, what a hell of a tale. That was a good chapter. Lot of really good things. The discovery of a lost sect of elves is incredible. The making it to High Castle, again, incredible. What an absolute legend. I'm going to be excited for what is to come next Tuesday. I almost want to read another chapter now, but we're coming up on the end of Storytime here. Thank you for lowering my stress with a good story and wonderful fellowship. It is so appreciated. I'm so grateful. All goodness to you and your family, Erin. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you. I'm glad that you are dropping by more regularly now. It's good to have you as a regular. I was so biting my tongue about the Lost Elves. It was a heck of a surprise. It was a good one. That was a solid twist. Oh, we can't. It's too late. It's almost 9 for me. I still have work to do before we get to the end. But damn, it was good. I'd say we got 15 minutes left. So let's do a couple of songs, and then I'll give if Calamitous is still here, I'll give him his rant and his ramble. It's now my time to find refuge in my bed. Rest well, Tavern family, and thank you for the story, Castle Frost. Rest well, my friends. Always wonderful to have you, brother. I hope you have a spectacular night. I hope you rest well, and that you rise tomorrow ready to face the day. Let's do... Okay, so we'll do... Is Martin still in, or did Martin wander off? Let's do... We'll do My Mother Told Me. And then Bear and Matty, who are still in, let's get 2 more songs. Matty, you pick one. Bear, you pick one. And Jazz, if you'd like to pick a song, you can pick a song as well. But we're going to start out with My Mother Told Me. And for any of you who've never been in here for the end or middle of Storytime, we used to do it in the middle. We don't do it so much anymore. At the end, we all sing some songs together. We don't sing well. We just sing because we enjoy it. So, you may need to cover your ears at some point. Got a hole in my chin. I'll do Tale of the Shadow. And I think we'll... So Talk, hello, good to see you. All right. My Mother Told Me for our friend Martin. Here we go. My mother told me someday I would buy galleys with good oars, sails to distant shores, stand up high in the prow, noble bark I steer, steady course to the haven, hew many foemen, hew many foemen. My mother told me someday I would buy galleys with good oars, sail to distant shores, stand up high in the prow, noble bark I steer, steady course to the haven, hew many foemen, hew many foemen. My mother told me someday I would buy galley with good oars, sail to distant shores, stand up high in the prow, noble bark I steer, steady, steady course to the haven, hew many foemen, hew many foemen. What haven't we done in a while? That's a good question. We haven't done Bones in the Ocean. We haven't done the Factory Workers song in a while. We haven't done Fields of Athenry in some time. We haven't done... We haven't done Valhalla Calling. I don't think I can do Valhalla Calling tonight, Tyson. My throat is worn out. There were so many voices in that chapter. My voice is worn out. It was a long chapter and there were a lot of voices in there. I don't know if I could manage Valhalla Calling. Yeah, that's true. We haven't done Irish Pub Song in a bit. That's true. We can do Irish Pub Song. And then the rose. So the tail of the shadow. Stop it. Stop it. We'll do tail of the shadow. We can do the rose, Jazz. We can do that one. We haven't done Moby Duck in a while. Yeah, I think that Esther probably skedaddled off a little bit ago, and I think Bear is the only Australian in here at the moment. I suppose I could do Valhalla Calling. Oh! I thought you were requesting a song. Moby Duck is also good. So yeah, let's do this. We'll do. I could do Valhalla Calling, but I wouldn't be able to do it with the Druid song. So if you want Valhalla Calling, I'll do it, Tyson. But I wouldn't be able to do it with the Druid song aspects. I've been listening while fighting my way off of Bespin Lego Star Wars. That's funny, Tyson. I love Star Wars. I love Lego games. Lego games are so much fun. They're just such good, simple fun. So let's do that. We'll do Red is the Rose. We'll do Moby Duck. And Tyson, well, if you want it, brother, I'll do it. I'm giving pretty much everybody a so we'll do the Tale of the Shadow, Red is the Rose, Moby Duck, and we'll do Valhalla Calling. Yeah, I just won't do it with the Druid song. So my throat is worn out this evening. So let's do Tale of the Shadow first. And again, for anybody who's never stopped in at the end, we sing shanties and ballads at the end. Not well, mind you, but if you know the lyrics, you're supposed to sing along. I had to remove ChatGPT because I freaked out OpenAI since it was both on my phone and laptop. It's now off my phone. Thank you, Soul Talk. Appreciate you. I set upon the sea to search for phantom sails of tales my mom told me. A ghostly galleon filled with gold sea sails alone. No crew, no captain's guiding hand can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. Sun and horizon met. I waved the anchor, hoisted sails, my course was set. My cutthroat crew conspiring with the stars our guide. They point the way through perils fraught to lead us to the one they call the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. Lean left, hard right, hold tightly to her helm, she'll try to drown you just for spite. Heave ho, till first light, she'll give a fight to all this song tongue twists me like I cannot believe. I need to practice it more. She'll give a fight to all who try to claim the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. A mighty tempest grew. The banshee cried to back, but our resolve was true. We pointed bow ahead and shouted, we'll break through. The draws of hell can't hold us back. There's nothing that can keep us from the Shadow. The winds blew stronger still. The ocean raged against us, tried to break our will. The sirens in the water, thirsty for the kill. Our vessel reeling to and fro, to bear us to the one they call the Shadow. None can keep us from the one they call the Shadow. Lean left, hard right, hold tightly to her helm, she'll try to drown you just for spite. Heave ho, till first light, she'll give a fight to all who try to claim the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. As thunder split the sky, a lightning drew a shape beyond the tempest sigh. A chill ran through me spine as legend came alive. Avast, I cried, all hands! We paired to take the one they call the shadow. All hands! As we approached her shell, the skies went silent, seas went calm as if by spell. No sign of fight or flight, wherein her all was well, until I tried to take her helm. Her rigging came alive, she hung me crew before me eyes. She stole my sight and cursed me captain of the shadow. She took my eyes and cursed me captain of the shadow. Lean left, hard right, steer clear of here for fear she'll eat your soul, she'll take your life. Heave ho, till first light, she'll claim the souls of those who try to tame the shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the shadow. We can sing Valhalla Calling, Petra, but it's going to have to be without the Druid song. My voice is really worn out this evening. What was the next one? Ray. Let's do Red is the Rose last. We'll do Moby Duck first. Thank you for the stretch. So Doc, I appreciate you. Oh, I tell you, I spend way too much time in this chair. I tell you right now. Oh, righty then. Alright, this is a song called Moby Duck, and it is about a terrifying waterfowl who besieges a lake. In case I might be getting my work critiqued, so thank you, Castle. Alright. Good night, so talk, rest well. After 14 years, I left the sea for a life upon a lake. After all the storms I'd seen, I needed a good break. I thought still waters would mean peace for me, but that was a mistake. For the place I chose was bedeviled by a giant evil drake, a mallard of such malice twice the size of any man, a bill to give you nightmares and a monstrous wingspan. I cannot hope to fight it, so avoid him if you can. The terrifying waterfowl, the beast beyond the dam. Row ho, row with all your might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row ho, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. I'm not one for surrender, so a vengeful oath I swore. I gathered up me hearties like so many times before. We shod our ship with weapons and prepared to go to war, till the fetid feathered fearsome flying duck would breathe no more. Row ho, row with all our might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for the fight. Row ho, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. There was bonny brave Marie, who to her arms had waved goodbye, and handsome Jack, whose duck attack left him without an eye. The Derby twins with one leg each on deck were standing by. Only a couple of dozen limbs between a crew of 25. Row ho, row with all our might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for the fight. Row ho, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. John T, good night, my friend, rest well. We'll see you again on Thursday, and until then, stay bloodthirsty, my friend. I'll see you in here next time. The fight raged on for several hours, defend and then attack. The beating from those wicked wings, our boat began to crack. The beast reared up to finish the job, and with a mighty quack, I rammed my harpoon in his throat and made a tasty snack. Row ho, row us back to shore. We'll drag his broken body back and roast it on an oar. Row ho, barbecue the beast. With hoisin sauce and pancakes, we'll have the biggest feast. Oh, row with all our might. We rowed with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row ho, we had all the luck. We won the day and did away the dreaded Moby Duck. We won the day and did away the dreaded Moby Duck. It is a weird song, Calamitous, but it's a funny song. I like it. It is by the Longest Johns. It's one of their sillier songs. I enjoy it. All right, we'll do Valhalla Calling with no druid song. Because again, my voice it's at its limits. These songs are gonna knock me out for the evening. All right, here we go. No warning needed. I don't have to worry about anybody getting pregnant from the song this time around. Ships on the vigor of the waves are skimming, bearing summits to the verdant plains. Each horizon is a new beginning. Rise and reign. Far from the fjords and the ice-cold currents, ravens soar over new frontiers, songs and sagas of a fate determined. Shields and spears, vows of favor or the thrill of plunder, pull together for the clan and clean, clank of hammers and the crash of thunder, pound within. Oh, ho, ho, the echoes of eternity. Oh, ho, ho, Valhalla calling me. Oh, ho, ho, to pluck the strings of destiny. Oh, ho, ho, Valhalla calling me. Valhalla calling me. Sails are swaying on the crimson river, blood and glory in the fighting fields. Shields are shattered into splintered timbers, iron and steel. Fires are rising and the bells are ringing. Glory, take us into Odin's hall. Golden glimmer and the sound of singing as God's call. Oh, ho, ho, the echoes of eternity. Oh, ho, ho, Valhalla calling me. Oh, ho, ho, to pluck the strings of destiny. Oh, ho, ho, Valhalla calling me. Valhalla calling me. Wind and the waves will carry me. Wind and the waves will set me free. Wind and the waves will carry me. Wind and the waves will set me free. Oh, 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 the echoes of eternity. Oh, 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 Valhalla calling me. Oh, 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 to pluck the strings of destiny. Oh, 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 Valhalla calling me. Valhalla calling me. Killshot, my dear. Hello. Let's get you all a toot on the raid horn. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Greetings, raiders. Welcome in. How was your stream? How did things go? Lucy, so a raid is a function on the Twitch portal where other persons who are streaming, they can bring their viewership over to another person who is live on the platform. And in doing so, they bring their friends over. Stupid Twitch has closed, but I jumped in manually. Hey, just the tip. How you doing, my friend? Irritated Ginger, welcome in. Nitso, my friend, good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome all. Hello, it's good to see you. Susumu, good to see you. Welcome, my friends. I'm so very glad that you could all drop in. Kitty, what were you doing today? Rag, hello, how's it going? How are you doing over on the TikTok portal? Don't think we've ever met before, but hello and welcome in. Resident Evil Outbreak. Ah, lovely, lovely, lovely. What is up, you beautiful dwarven man? You know, just singing some songs of our people. Having an absolutely spectacular time. I don't think I've ever played Resident Evil Outbreak. How is it? Outbreak is new, right? I've not been playing video games recently, so... When did Outbreak come out? It was on the PlayStation 2. Yeah, I never played Outbreak. That is an older one. Wow. How is it? Okay, on a scale of Resident Evil 4, which is arguably the best Resident Evil, or Code Veronica, on a scale of Resident Evil 4 to Resident Evil 6, how good is it? Yeah, we're going through all of them before 9. The mom of the main chick in 9 is in Outbreak. Oh, interesting. No, I will still get to Kilometers' rant. I didn't know he was still in. I thought he dipped out, so I wasn't going to give him a rant if he wasn't here. Since 1 originally is my favorite. Well, obviously the first 2 are like the best ones as far as like the horror aspect of it. But as there's like the overall story and game, I think that 4 and Code Veronica are probably the best ones in the series, period. Even as much as I liked the gameplay of 5 was terrible, 6 was terrible. It's like a whole lot of terrible. I heard Village was better. Like it kind of went back to its roots, but I didn't play Village. So, on a scale of like quality-wise and the overall quality, where does Outbreak land? Well, and even then, like on story-wise, because the story of the first 2 is really good. Where would you place Outbreak in distance to those ones? I love 4, but I'm convinced because it did so well, 5 and 6 happen to be more action like 4. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's not one of the better ones for sure. Okay. That's a great way to put it. That's a wonderful way to put it. All right, love. Well, if you gotta go to bed, if you need to go get food, go do it. I didn't get you a shout out. Hang on. If any of you are not following my friend Killshot, she plays a lot of retro games, and she's absolutely lovely. She's one of my oldest friends. We've known each other for a good, probably too long, if we're being perfectly honest. She plays a lot of older games, and she's an absolute joy to be around. She's a laugh riot. I remember it being amazing. There's a lot. I remember myself being amazing 20 years ago too. That's turned out to not be a truth that's held up. But yeah, Killshot is wonderful if you enjoy games at all, retro games, anything of the like. She's definitely worth a follow. She's very funny. She's got a lot of energy. She's got enough energy that she could power the entire of the Western Seaboard's power grid, just on using her body. She's a bundle of joy and energy. That one. She's also a little bit of a probably personal too much information. She's also an old school emo kid. So she was one of those like scene emo goth girls back in the day. So there's that as well. A lot was made. That's true. I mean, the late '80s to the early 2000s was like the glory era of the universe. Like there was never a better time than the '90s. Like late '80s to the early 2000s was like the glory era for humanity. I think that's fair enough. I think we can all agree on that. I think we can all agree on that. Oh, Paul, you're an amazing storyteller. Oh, you flatter me, Tyson. You flatter me. But yeah, if any of you are not already following my friend Killshot, go ahead and do that. She's lovely. All right, good. Love you too. Off you go, lovey. Have a good rest of your day, and kiss that beautiful man of yours for me. Big, wet, sloppy one. You're not a bad bloke as far as bad blokes go, Council. Well, thank you, Bear. That's very kind of you. Well, maybe. All right. Oh, good night, Erin. Yeah. All right. Let's get back. We got two more songs to do, and then I'm gonna give Calamitous his rant. Okay. We have what was well no, we have one more song. Yeah, one more song. We'll do Red is the Rose. All right. Well, yeah, no, the '90s was 30 years ago, friends. that's that's a sad reality. 1995 was 30 years ago. What a realization. All right, let's sing "Red Is the Rose," and then we'll give Calamitous his rant before I send you all off. Come over the hills, my bonny Irish lass. Come on. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. To any of you in Killshot's community who don't know me, I am Castle. This is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. Every now and again, I read you all a story. Um, I do pretty much exclusively storytelling now, but every once in a while, we'll play a story game as well. Uh, Welcome in. You have stumbled through a portal into a tavern at the end of the world where all stories come to rest. And now, because you sought a story, you are here. Okay, back to the song. Come over the hills, my bonny Irish lass. Come over the hills to your darling. You choose the road, love, and I'll make the vow. And I'll be your true love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne. But my love is fairer than any. 'Twas down by Killarney's green woods that we strayed, when the moon and the stars they were shining. The moon it shone its rays on her locks of golden hair, and she swore she'd be my love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the boyne. But my love is fairer than any. It's not for the partings that my sister pains. It's not for the grief of my mother. It's all for the loss of my bonny Irish lass, that my heart is breaking forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the boyne. But my love is fairer than any. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the boyne. But my love is fairer than any. Oh, my love is fairer than any. Thank you for the song, my friends. Thank you for the song. Black Dragon, hello. Good to see you. Welcome in. I was still young and mostly unbroken in the 80s and 90s, and now my body thinks it's 80 or 90. Fair enough, Bear. Fair enough. I mean, I don't know exactly how old my body thinks it is, but we're probably somewhere in the 60s range. Jazz, I'm glad you enjoyed, love. Michael, hello. Hooper, Kova, how goes it, my friend? I am well. I'm doing good. Calamities, remind me of your the what you wanted for your rant, brother. So I'll be back at the end and curses. Well, we're gonna still give Calamities his rant, and then we'll probably pop up here in about 10-15 minutes. Like however long Calamities' rant goes until I feel I'm at the natural end of it. Hells, have a good night, my friend. Rest well. I bid you farewell. I must go now and walk in the dream world. May your dreams be sweet, and may you rise tomorrow ready to conquer the day. And may all your enemies fall beneath your feet. I quoted Bob Heinlein saying moral behavior being survival behavior carried beyond the self, and you said it was a really good point. Doing poorly, picked up a throat infection. Well, don't do that, Hooper. Why'd you do that? I'm just kidding. Make sure that you are flushing your throat regularly and that you're resting. I finally fought my way off of Beastman. It took that long, Tyson. Wow. Okay, Uno's art also became my official one for my actual book, isn't it? She's such a lovely at everything, isn't she? The lady, it's absolutely spectacular. Just flew by to make a security check on my favorite tavern and say hello. Well, that is appreciated. Thank you kindly, my friend. We love when we get some of the regulars back around, checking to make sure that we're all okay. So It's a slow day. Thought I'd try something different. Well, there you go. You don't want those?
No, these hurt my head.
Fine then.
They're meant for your size head.
Did you say I have a big head?
You
Calling
have
me.
a big head. I have a tiny head. We don't have normal sized heads in this house.
That's true. My head is almost as big as your torso. Singing shanties while dueling with sabers was an experience. Matty says hello, by the way. Love you.
Yes.
Matty says hello.
Hello.
So Calamitous made the point. He says he quoted Bob Hyden when he said that moral behavior being survival behavior carried beyond the self, and you said it's a really good point. So the generally speaking, most beings will be selfish to survive, right? In some instances, there are some beings. Bear also says hello, my darling. There are some instances where certain beings, like say wolves, for instance, will understand that working in a pack increases their likelihood of survival. This is also true of a lot of herd animals. Staying together in a herd means safety. But even within those groups, you will still have selfish behavior. Human beings are are the only creature. Kova also says good day to the lady Una. Uh, even within groups that are together to survive, you'll find selfish acts that happen. Like there are instances like the reason why lone wolves get created is because those wolves are not capable of acting appropriately within the group dynamic of the pack. Same thing will happen within herds. If there are herd animals, especially this usually happens with young male herd animals who are incapable of respecting the boundaries of the lead males and of the children, the smaller creatures in the pack. You end up with these individuals that end up being cast out. But for human beings, we are the only creatures that are really capable of doing what is selfless. Or more often than not, it's not completely selfless. It's usually to do what feels good. We'll do something that makes us feel morally good, or makes us feel as though we are uh, being good people, right? Off to spread joy to other lives, make good dreams and fortune come your way. Thank you, Black Dragon. May you have a good rest of your evening. May you rest well. May you bring joy to all who you meet. And may you rise tomorrow ready to conquer the day. Have a good night, my friend. But there are a couple of different contributions as to what people say this is from. When you have like relatively uncivilized societies, there's not a whole lot of selfless survival mechanisms that go on. You will have groups that work together in the same way that animals do for sake of survival, but you don't get a whole lot of examples of selflessness. But then when you present like what Calamitous has said here, uh, moral behavior being a survival behavior carried beyond the self, it is only in very select scenarios where that happens. You don't get the commonality of having a sense of unilateral moral. Quokka will throw their babies at predators in order to escape. Right. And we see that happen in the amongst human beings too. Like human beings will abandon their children on a doorstep, or just you'll have parents that'll kill their children because they don't want to, or they can't, or whatever the excuse ends up being, to get rid of them so that it's no longer their responsibility to take care of the children. This is an animalistic, this is a natural way of dealing with strife and conflict. Uh, but then you get something that is, uh, and you'll see this sometimes in animals, but it happens rarely. Like if there's a like a stray kitten, sometimes a mother cat will pick up a kitten and bring it in. Same thing with puppies. Sometimes a mother um, who is still feeding, she'll sometimes feed stray puppies. But it's a lot of times it's very difficult to get these wild mothers to take in the outside ones. But the same thing with humans. Like most humans do not want a child that is not theirs, but on occasion you will get people who, whether it's because they selfishly want a child or simply because they have a heart for the children, they will go and they will adopt a child and they will take care of a child that is not theirs. And that is and a but it's usually people within a specific moral framework who do these things. And morality is a survival instinct, like the quote that Calamitous said. It is a survival instinct that spreads beyond the self. And when you have that survival instinct, when you have that broader spectrum of a unilateral moralism, that's usually when you see huge booms in culture. Like you have the sort of unilateral uh, collectivism of the early Americas, right? And because America had similar morals across everybody, there was this massive boom during the my mother-in-law adopted twice. Yeah, and it's it is something that is a almost exclusively a because even with like cats and dogs who take in other puppies, they usually don't recognize their offspring after the offspring grow up. Like we have this sentimentality that animals treat their young the same way we do, but they don't. Animals that are really domesticated can sometimes emulate humans in this way, but it's not really the same. Animals like things that are familiar. Humans also like things that are familiar, but we also have a sense of nostalgia and of sentimentality that animals are not capable of. Captain Carlson, your friend, Captain Carlson is checking in. Morality is a convenience of circumstance. Well, it can be. There's only two ways that you can look at morality. Morality is either, as Captain Carlson says, either a convenience of circumstance, or it is appealing to a higher morality. Some people will say this is a higher sense of self, or however you put it. But morality really only exists within the framework of what it is selective, and that is subjective. That is, whoever has the might, whoever has the power, decides what is moral. We see this all throughout history with warlords and dictators and so on, where the morality of the people will shift towards whatever the might is telling them is moral. And then you get instances of religiosity where you get things like Buddhism and um, things like Christianity and other select instances, and there will be a written down, solidified idea of what is moral, and then it is said to have been given by something that is greater than humans. And when you do this, it's interesting because if you look at the moralities that are based on subjectivity, like under dictators and warlords, it tends to lead to a lot of killing, a lot of murder, a lot of these things. And that even happens under religiosity, but that religiosity, it depends on whether or not the dictator is following the rules that they proclaim to, or whether they are following their own subjective sense of morality. We can just snooze these. I'm not going to make you guys watch another set of ads because we're gonna raid out here in a minute. Berkey, hello. Are you a Freemason? I am not. I not even a little bit. But Berkey, hello. Welcome here. It's good to see you. I know it's not the same situation of adoption, but all of my friends who have children, I see them as well. But in a sense, that is adoption, though, Tyson, because most creatures do not feel camaraderie with creatures of their like, of their ilk, right? Like lions will murder other lions. Bless you, my love. It's all right. Giraffes will fight other giraffes, and human beings, when they give to their base senses, they will fight each other. But it is only human beings who have this camaraderie with broadly other human beings. And it is a sense of high moral self to be able to look at beings who are not you and actually care about them and actually do good on their behalf without imposing yourself upon them. It's a really interesting and tricky thing. Uh, Mind you, she also married and divorced 4 times. Well, I've said this before. Most of us are not prepared to be spouses. As always, friend, I love your perspective. Well, thank you, Carlson. I appreciate you. Um, most of us are not prepared to be spouses or parents, and we don't teach enough in society about how to be a spouse or a parent, or how to be a good friend, or how to be a good companion, or how to be a good lover, a good husband, a good wife, a good mother, a good father. We just sort of think that these things are natural, but they're not. These are skills. Well, it's empathy. It's empathy to a degree because empathy is just the ability to feel what other people feel. It's not necessarily the ability to act on it in a constructive way. There is a higher sense of being that comes along with being able to. I think that sympathy is often more powerful than empathy because sympathy usually comes with action. Empathy is just I understand what you feel, and empathy. I don't know. I don't really care for the word empathy just because it. A lot of people abuse the word empathy, or they weaponize the word empathy. Like a lot of people will call themselves empaths, and then those people are usually some of the most like bitter and cruel to other people, even though they're claiming that they can feel what other people feel. Um, but empathy is an important thing to be able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. But you can never really feel what somebody else feels because your perspective is entirely unique. So it is a hubristic sort of claim to say, "Oh, I understand what other people feel," because you don't. It's impossible. Like I understand my son so well that I predict what he is going to do, what he's going to need, what he's going to say, the mistakes he's going to make, the schemes that he is plotting. I predict them hours and hours and hours before he even knows that they're going to do them. But I still don't understand how he feels. Like he will tell me he feels a certain way about a thing, and I cannot fathom how he feels that way because I can't be in his brain. Every perspective is entirely unique. Now, that doesn't mean that because we each have an entirely and an incredibly unique perspective, that all of that needs to be held up and lifted up as some supreme truth. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. I can never understand how Hooper, how Kova will feel pain, or how Bear feels pain, or how Tyson feels pain, or how Berkey feels pain, or how Carlson feels pain. I don't know how any of you feel pain. And none of you can understand how I feel pain. What pain feels like to me is an experience none of you could know. But we all feel pain. If I get stabbed in the hand, that experience is not different from any of you being stabbed in the hand. That is the exact same experience. The experience is a universal thing. Feeling water run over your hands is something that we all experience. It is a universal experience. It is not unique to anyone. And that is the point we should look at. We should, for furthering our understanding of the human mind, we should listen to perspective. We should want to hear perspective, but only under the umbrella of understanding that the perspective is not the end all be all of truth. The perspective is a further understanding of the human experience. The universal truth that being stabbed hurts, generally speaking, is what is important. The fact that each one of us understand it differently, feel it differently, is a furtherance of that base understanding. It does not replace that understanding. I do not feel most pain because I have nerve damage. Does that mean that I should go around smacking people? Because my truth is, being smacked doesn't hurt me because I don't feel it. So does that then mean that the truth that smacking people hurts be replaced because that's how I... No, absolutely not. But it is a furtherance of understanding that the way that I feel pain is different from how all you will feel pain, is a furtherance of the understanding of the human condition and the human experience of the human mind. Burgess, it's good to see you. You philosophize like one of us. I can tell you have a classical education of some kind. I am a classically trained storyteller, and I grew up amongst a family who highly values the notion of being educated for knowing and for preserving knowledge. No, that's a good point. My mates call me a humanitarian, and I think humanitarian, in the strictest sense of the word, is what all people should be, not in the activist sense of the word, because a lot of people will claim to be humanitarians, and really it's just about getting attention or making money. And human beings are very complex, and it's ridiculous. Uh, my sister told my nephews that if they're doing something wrong or stupid, and I see it and tell them to stop, that if they don't, I'm I'm to go to her and she'll deal with it. Well, see, there you go. Often for COVID, there is a mental pain in humans, which is something I'm trying to solve. Well, and again, like, this is one of those things where pain is asubjective. Yes, it is. It is. Good and evil is in perception. Well, to a degree, right? Like, if we argue that good and evil are perceptive, right? Then that means that if if I see something as good and Kova sees something as evil, which one of us is correct? Well, in the idea that there is a subjective morality, we're both correct. So if I think it's okay to go out and kill people and steal their McDonald's, then that's fine. But if Kova thinks that that's evil, that's also fine. And those two perspectives, they cannot exist side by side. So morality cannot be subjective. It has to come from something higher than us. Because when the ruling power decides that something is bad, well, then that ruling power is the one who decides what good and evil is. A lot of people don't like it, but I think that it is fine to appeal to the Christian, and I mean Christian in the sense of what Jesus Christ taught, not Christian in like the Catholic Church and the Crusades and all of that, in the sense of what Jesus Christ's ministry taught, for a sense of subjective morality. My grandfather has always said that we get our spine from our ancestors, but we got our morality from the Christians. That's one of the things that my grandfather, who has a more than 1,000-year lineage that he carries of what many people would consider pagan tradition, that's what my grandfather says. When our medical professional asks on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your pain? It's impossible to actually grade that. Good and evil are moralities based on the law structure and personal structure. Right. And you cannot leave it up to people to decide what is good or bad. Yeah, on based on Jesus Christ's teachings, because regardless of how you feel about the Bible and religion, because this is not a religious argument. I'm not telling anybody they need to go out and be Christians. I'm not telling anybody that they need to believe in any particular religion or anything like that. Historically speaking, there is more evidence, and I've said this before, that Jesus Christ lived, he existed, he lived, he died. He was executed and tortured by the Romans and the Jewish officials, and then he was brought back from the dead. Those things have more historicity to them than any of the rulers, than Herod, Pontius Pilate, or Caesar Augustus, that any of those people existed. Whatever you want to believe about the Bible, those things are undeniable. That is historical. And you don't have to believe the fantastical aspects of it, but there is just as much evidence for the fact that Jesus Christ rose from the dead as there is that Alexander the Great ever existed. So you don't have to believe that he's God, you don't have to believe any of those things, but that aspect of it is historical. So when people want to attest to what morality is, if you want a place to look for what is moral, Jesus Christ is a great model for that. The man lived a perfect life and then died. So, truth is truth regardless of personal perception or culture. Yeah, absolutely. I'd kill for some macas right now. I haven't left the bed all day. Like, I think those people who hurt me as a kid are evil doesn't mean they are objectively. Well, that it is truly evil if you are responsible for a child. Children are the most vulnerable amongst us. and it is a truly evil thing to injure a child strictly for sake of injuring a child. Right, and like I've been shot in the leg, and when I was asked in the ER how badly it hurt, it was like a 3 or 4, maybe a 5. Now it bumped itself up to an 8 when they started digging the bullet out of my leg, but, but prior to that, it didn't really hurt all that bad. But one of the most objectively evil things you can do is hurt somebody who you are responsible for taking care of. It's why, like, one of the biggest crimes in our clan, one of the worst things you can do, is abuse your spouse or your children. It's one of the most frowned upon things because you have a responsibility to take care of those who have been put into your guise. Stealing candy from a baby isn't evil; it's actually good for the baby. Yeah, it's one of those subversive things, Matty. But yeah, I think this is a really fascinating topic, Calamitous. I'm glad you brought it up. It is an interesting thing to talk about because the morality is such a landslide of discussion, but it's not really that complicated. People want to make it complicated because they hate. A lot of times, people want to make it complicated because they hate Christians, and I'm not here to tell you whether or not you should or should. I don't think you should hate anybody. The only thing that I think you should hate is bad action. And if a Christian takes a bad action, then you have every right to hate that. I think that we should all hate bad action and bad acting, but you should absolutely do your best to love all of your fellow human beings, love all of the creatures in the place, and that doesn't mean that you never do harm, but it means that you never do harm with the intent to hurt someone strictly for sake of hurting them. Like if a poisonous snake is in your bed and you can't get it out safely, it's okay for you to take that snake's life. But if you go out of your way to just chop the head off of a snake because you know it's venomous, well, that's not good. That's just a wild animal. It's not malicious that that wild animal is there. That wild animal is a natural part of the ecosystem. It's one of the things that I've had bickerances with people about this all the time, because a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, eating an innocent animal is then evil in that point." But then you're saying, okay, well, everything that happens within nature is evil, and it gets to a point where it's so reductively pedantic that it means nothing, right? Like you start reducing things down to a point where you're analyzing it to such a fine degree that nothing means anything. It's like when people say, "Oh, well, all words are made up." Well, yeah, no shite, all words are made up. Of course, all words are made up. But if you reduce all words are made up down to the point where a word means absolutely nothing, then nothing means anything, and we can't have conversations. We can't talk about anything. We can't get to any solution because you've just ruled out any solution. You've ruled out every solution by saying all words are made up. It's silly. It's absolutely it's silly. Don't be hateful. Yeah, essentially that's what it boils down to. If you're acting out of malice or strictly out of self-gain that is a non-necessity, and you are doing it strictly out of spite or hate, chances are that is a bad action. If you are like even if, let's say, like, you have a family member who you don't want to talk to, and the reason why you don't want to talk to them is because you hate them, and it's not because of necessarily anything that they actively do. You just hate that family member. You're probably the problem in that instance if you're letting hate be the reason why you don't talk to that person. Now, if that person is hateful and is constantly causing problems and you don't want to talk to them because of that, then again, the problem is a person being hateful. It is what it is. I still stand by whoever invented the Irish language might have been a bit sloshed. Have I ever told that story, Matty? I need to get off. It's 9:40. I just realized how late it is. We got 3 minutes until the next ad break runs. I think we should raid out before the ads pop. Yeah, let's raid out before the ads pop. Let's raid Falcor before the ads pop. All right, guys, this is where we're gonna end for tonight. I got a little bit. Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. All right, let's see. I think Falcor is still on. Falcor is not still on. The only speaking of people who are a bit up there, the only people who I have who are on are are all a little bit more edgy than I am. So all right, well maybe we won't raid out then. Never mind. We'll just end it here for tonight. Unless you guys want to go see one of my edgier friends. All right, everyone. I don't hate my elder brother. I just don't want to talk to him. Well, and again, like it's fair. I just mean generally speaking. A lot of people will do this thing where they like hate somebody so much they don't want to talk to them. If somebody is impossible to talk to, it's not a bad thing to not want to talk to that person. Like if somebody is completely like if they're conflicting all the time, they're spiteful and all they ever want to do is fight. It's not a bad thing to not want to be around that person. In general, Foal is looking after her pig. Oh, I see, I see. Oh, shoot, we can raid one of my more controversial friends then, as long as you guys don't mind. Yeah, sure. We'll raid Mr. John Stout. He's got 6 people. He's playing Divinity Original Sin. He swears a lot, so if you don't like swearing, go ahead and hop out. All right, friends. I appreciate you all for joining me here today. I appreciate you for trusting me to be your storyteller. It's lovely to have all of you. Thank you all for being here and enjoying the story with us. And while it is sad that we must part, I look forward to the next time that we all gather here in the tavern together. So, until the next time that I see you all, I hope that you all stay bloodthirsty. And until next time, my friends, have a good night. I will see you next time.
I think his armor class was nuts. Hopefully, please, God, give me his armor. The Destroyer's gloves? Yes. Yes. Come to daddy. Oh my